on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. We're back with another stream for you guys this week. And as ever, co-piloting this thing with me is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on, everybody?
Yep, yeah, we got your movie reviews, we got topics of the day, kind of a bit of a review for another Netflix TV show. It actually came out before Squid Game, but it has similar themes and kind of like similar premise, and that's Alice in Borderland. It's actually a Japanese TV show, but produced by Netflix. So we'll be giving our thoughts on that, as well as our usual movie review. And as you know, this month is Bond month, and we will be reviewing GoldenEye tonight, starring of course the inaugural film for the star Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, and I've been studying up about Bond all month.
Yeah, no, yeah, you really do have like not in a bad way, but you really have an obsessive like personality.
I think I do. I just I kind of, when we have an idea of what we're going for, I want to make sure I'm as prepared as possible, and so I kind of go down that trail, and it's like, okay, well, we're doing this, and then as you're looking at it, it's like, oh, that's really fascinating. I never thought about this, and you kind of go down another trail here, and it's hopefully it makes for a more informative review, and that's kind of what I'm going for.
And for me, true slacker form, I just know enough to cover the bases. But I more than make up for my my ability to form connections and kind of see the patterns where where other people might miss.
That's true. And see, that's the thing. That's where I think our reviews are fun, because we come at it from different angles. Like, the things that we find interesting about the movies are different, and so I think people get a better view of the movie that way. And hopefully, from what we talk about, people see this like, hey, that sounds like a pretty awesome movie. Got to check that out.
Yeah, although sometimes I worry that our reviews are a little too indulgent. That we might lose. I mean, we might lose like a lot of like viewers because our reviews go in like so many different directions that it might be hard to follow. But it's like, whatever. This is our stream, so fuck off.
Plus the other thing I want, when we do our reviews, like, I try to choose, everyone, it'd be easy, like, oh, we're going to just choose The Godfather, or just choose, like, Indiana Jones, like, the super popular films that, like, which we've talked about, of course, of course we've talked about those films, but I want to also steer people towards films that are a little bit lesser known, like...
Dodgers are up by 1.
Oh, nice. All right, there we go. And I understand if you're watching the Dodgers game instead of us, so...
Yeah, I know, yeah, I'd say, yeah. Like, if we don't do our usual numbers, yeah, I get it. But I got a job to do, so that's why I'm here tonight. That's why I just have the scores, and I'll check on it periodically. Although it is the top of the ninth.
I mean, we need tonight, big time.
Yeah, so as long as the Braves don't score, and we'll be good.
Yeah,
since it's a home game. If the Braves don't score at the top of the ninth, then that's it. That's the game. But yeah, I mean, it's what is it? It's an emotional roller coaster when you're a Dodgers fan, because they're doing great, and then all of a sudden, and like even just like this the NLCS series. It's like the first two games, they
It's like
completely.
we find ways to claim defeat out of the jaws of victory. I mean, that's pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah,
I've been dealing with that as a Dodgers fan for many years.
yeah. I mean, if you're especially if you're like a native, Angelino and stuff, and Dodgers are your team, then yeah, you're all too familiar with that scenario. And then with all the cheating scandal that happened like a couple years ago, and
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row, 2 years in a row. So depending on how the what was it the ALCS goes, then we might be facing either the teams that cheated us 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, it's both those teams. It's
Yeah, exactly.
the
The
Astros and the Red Sox.
uh-huh.
Right now, the Red Sox look like they're
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 gonna, yeah. I mean, judge if yesterday's game was any indication, then yeah, it's gonna be Boston.
yeah. Jesus, that's crazy.
Yeah. Although there are some defenders who come to like the players' defense, like, oh, but it was management. It was management. It's like
Yeah. Okay.
whatever. Okay. Yeah. Tell me how it's like and tell me how it was all Hitler's fault only. You know.
Oh, but yeah, it's baseball's been pretty exciting, and then uh, hell, we even watched yesterday. We hung out. We were watching the Buffalo Bills game, which is rare for them to play on Monday night.
hmm
Well, they've never really been good enough in the last 20 years to be worthy of a Monday night game.
Right.
So once I saw that they were on the schedule for Monday night, I was like, guys, we gotta watch. Okay, let's hang out.
Yeah. Let's all go watch my team. It's like, okay. Yeah. I mean, even though I grew up in the time where LA had two teams, Raiders and Rams. They were never really my team, so and like now that the Rams are back, it's like I don't really care. And then when we got the Chargers, like you're
That's
still you're still a San Diego team to me. So
yeah. The Yeah, that's the thing. It's like Los Angeles never really had a football team,
hmm
and with my family being from like a lot of my family being from upstate New York,
hmm
I grew up as a Bills fan.
hmm Although I
Back
heard, I don't know if I'm misremembering this, but the Rams used to even be here like in like uh,
when they were first a team,
real
like
early.
yeah, because the NFC teams, like, because it used to be just like the NFL, and
hmm
there was the NFL had quite a few teams, like so like the Rams and the Packers and the Lions, all like and the Eagles, like they all used to be teams that like they've been playing since the turn of the century,
Right. Yeah.
which a lot of people don't. Everyone thinks that football started back in like the '60s when the Super Bowl started. It's like no, football's been being played for a long time. It
hmm
has a huge history. It wasn't until I think like 1960 when
Well,
they
when they were able to like televise it and
well no well
broadcast it into homes.
1960s when the AFL started, which was a rival league to the NFL,
Okay.
and they came up with the idea of like, well, why don't we have like the NFL champion and the AFL champion face off in a match called the just it was the Super Bowl, and I was like that was the idea behind that, and that's where kind of everything started. And initially it was just like a kind of like an exhibition match, but they
hmm
made it, and now it's kind of become like the championship like
Right.
game,
Yeah. More stakes. More stakes.
more stakes. Yeah, so and it's been going on since 1967.
hmm
And but yeah, a lot of people just think that like, oh yeah, football just started, because of the Super Bowl and all this stuff. It's like, no, man, there's so much more history to it than that.
Right. Yeah. Because there's a restaurant here in LA that has a banner from like the early 1900s, like a Rams like
Yeah.
flag,
Well, the
and like
Rams back in like
yeah,
the 40s and 50s, they were nearly unstoppable. They were really good.
yeah. But were they an
Um,
LA team or were they?
yeah, they were a Los Angeles team.
Okay. Yeah. So okay, that explains why that restaurant has that flag then.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the
So
Rams
yeah.
ended up.
So technically, yeah, Rams are an LA team, but it's just like they're not my team.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. It's weird because we don't have as much. For our generation, we don't really have a huge connection to the Rams. Like, because when
Hmm.
we were growing up, the Rams were in St. Louis. Um,
Well,
and
yeah. Well, I
then
mean, I still remember when they were the. I still remember the move. That's the
yeah,
thing for me. And so,
and then we had the
um,
Raiders come down, but back in like '83. But that's an Oakland team, and they
yeah,
end up moving
exactly.
anyways. So yeah, it's just that's the one sport we've really never had a team.
Yeah.
So you see a
And I
lot
mean,
of
yeah, I
people.
know it's like kind of different too because like the Lakers, they're originally from Minnesota, and the Clippers, they're from San Diego too. But
Yeah,
it's but it happened. I don't know. They were just able to become like LA's team, kind of like the Dodgers, because they're from Brooklyn, but they're able to become an LA team. So. But with the Rams, it's like kind of like this flip flop where it's like, yeah, they're LA's team, for a good long while, and they're like, we're getting it, bigger, more opportunities in St. Louis, and then it's like, oh, now we want to come back now, just like, oh, great, thanks a lot.
but yeah, that's what it's like. One thing like in LA when it comes to football, everyone roots for a different team here. It's weird. Like
Yeah,
and
yeah,
now
yeah.
obviously people like are starting to root for the Rams. Like yes, we have our team back, and it's like and they switch from like rooting for one team now they're rooting for like the Rams. I'm like, dude, that's you can't do that. Like
Yeah, it's a little scummy. It's a little scummy.
yeah, it's
But
like it,
but I'll admit it. If the Rams or hell even the Chargers got into the Super Bowl, I'd root for them.
well, I mean, obviously, when was it the Rams were playing the Patriots? I was like, I'm not rooting for the Patriots. I fucking hate that team.
Yeah, right.
It's like I hate anyone from that division other than the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like yeah, in that sense, like yeah, it's by default I was rooting for the Rams, but
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, when it's not the Bills, like doing well or in the playoffs, like at that point it's just I just want a fun game.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty similar. It's like even like before the LA teams came. I really didn't really watch football. I only watched like Super Bowl because it was like it was a time to hang out with friends and just like I just wanted to see a fun game. I wasn't rooting for any particular team. I just wanted to see a really fun game.
Yeah, yeah. When it's your team that's in the Super Bowl, oof, trust me, like I dealt with that for like 4 straight years. Like rooting for the Bills to win, and it's just like we came so fucking close, you know.
Uh,
And then a couple of years we got our ass handed to us by the Cowboys. But like the ones against Washington and the Giants, it was like we were just so close.
mm,
Kind of like last night's game, just so close, almost there, just can't.
yeah, especially that one player who made like that 90-yard like run and they got and then a flag got called. It's like
Yeah, it's just like damn.
right, and they could have won it, but if not for that one Bills player that held on, this held on, who closed his hands, at the most inopportune moment.
Yeah, there was two touchdowns that really got taken away by stupid holding penalties. It's just like, come on, guys. This is.
Right? It's
Uh,
like just give us one.
yeah, but yeah, no, football's an interesting sport. Like there have been a lot of there's a lot of stupid like when you should just be caring about the damn sport itself.
Mm,
There's all this other crap that kind of gets thrown in nowadays, where it's like we gotta, you know, it's about all the wokeism and all that stuff, and it's just like, come on, like just let us enjoy the freaking game. It's a fun game. It's a especially like this. The Super Bowl used to be a time where like all of like the country kind of got together and it was an event that we all
right.
watched.
It was the one time where we could just put everything aside, politics, whatever. It's just like and all kind of coalesce under the band, under the colors of your team.
Yeah,
Um, but now that's gone because they're like because these crybabies, like literal crybabies, who don't even make up the viewership of like football or anything, started bitching about representation and this, that, or the other, and like or racism when something like 90% of NFL players are black, and it's like and they want to preach about how like there's wealth inequality or whatever by literal black millionaires,
Yeah,
and it's
crying
just
for
like
$100 bills.
wiping
About
their tears with their $100 bills, and wiping their asses with like their Monet paintings or whatever.
It's
Um,
it's funny. I saw this great thing on Twitter the other day about it's kind of this uh, cartoon strip that somebody had done where it's like you have somebody promoting like, here's the thing, this is what everyone's wanting, like it's the new thing. It's like, yeah, I want to buy the thing. That's great. Cool. I'm so happy that the thing is coming out. It's like, and then you have like the one guy off in like other corners, like, I don't like the thing. It's like, make changes to it. Okay, we've come out with a new thing. It's like it went from being the thing to the thing, and it's like, all right,
uh,
changes that you wanted. Like, that's not the thing I wanted. No, I'm not gonna buy that. Everyone walks away, and like he turns back to the guy that wanted all the changes. Like, yeah, I was never actually planning on buying the thing, so and so
yeah,
everyone's fine. And it's like that's exactly what's going on with all this, crap with like making people kind of in the bureaucrats running the sport, who they make all these changes that like, oh, we had to worry about like these people that are supposedly complaining to our sponsors or whatever. It's like these people don't care about the sport. They're not going to watch the sport. You're not going to get them as fans. It's never going to happen.
right,
So
yeah, and
why?
I mean, yeah, and to that point, like the most befuddling kind of knee bend was NASCAR.
Oh, dude.
Like especially like trying to tap that that alphabet soup group, um, market. It's like they weren't fans in the first place.
And it's like
So
it's
you think that you slap a rainbow sticker on a car and it's like, yeah, it's like, then for sure they're gonna start watching. It's like,
no,
no.
and it's not that there aren't already like gay people that are in the sport. Like there's crew members. I know there's like a couple of drivers that are in that. It's like that's fine. Like and that's the thing is like NASCAR fans don't fucking care. It doesn't matter if you're black or Asian or whatever. Like it actually is it may not have always been that way, like back in like the early start of the sport. That was actually, it was, to be honest, it was more of the fans, especially because you're in the South.
Mhm.
NASCAR itself was never like, no, you can't compete. Like, Wendell Scott, who was the first black man to win a race in NASCAR, like he raced in NASCAR for a long, long time. Now he ran his own team and didn't quite always have the finances and stuff like, but NASCAR never stopped him from competing. And a lot of the NASCAR community, like when Wendell Scott needed help, they they were there. Like NASCAR's most famous
Right. Well,
driver
yeah.
NASCAR's most famous driver, Richard Petty, constantly was helping that guy out.
Mhm.
Guys like Fred Lorenzen, another great in the sport, were always like they were, you know, helping. They were always helping this guy out, and
Mhm.
not because he wasn't talented, but the sport always kind of comes around their own because they're with each other week after week, race after race,
Right.
and it's like the guy, you might have rivalries and like people that like you hate on the racetrack and you want to beat the hell out of them. But
Mhm.
when it comes down to it, like, hey, if that guy needs a shirt off your back because his shirt like is completely like ripped apart, they'll do it. That's the thing about NASCAR. It's not
Right. And I
this.
mean, it's like, and right, you're talking about like most of the fans who are kind of maybe
Yeah,
a little bit exclusionary or whatever, but for the most part, it's like as long as you're able to as long as you had your own car, especially like towards like the beginnings of NASCAR, and even like some of when it was kind of coalescing more, it's just like as long as you had your car, you could compete. No one was really trying to stop you.
it's
But
just
then they but then they're but again kind of like these chronological, like the kind of chronological snobbery of most ideologues, they'll say like, oh well, black people were oppressed and whatever. It's like black people didn't own cars back then. Black people couldn't soup up their own cars.
Yeah, I mean, and Wendell Scott did it for, I mean, decades. He was there for a long time,
Right.
and he
Yeah.
did win. And the thing is, if he had had the opportunity to be in like top tier equipment, like if he had been able to drive for like Richard Petty or the Wood brothers, the guy probably would have won a bunch of races. But
Mm-hmm.
that's that you could say that about a lot of guys in the sport who have been kind of like what are known as the independents. Like they don't have all the financial backing. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have um, like the best top tier equipment, but they show up week to week and they try to eke out a living. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
because they want to race, they want to be there. That's what they're passionate about, and that's kind of what keeps them going.
Yeah. It's like but then they would. I mean, I'm speaking. Because I'm a bit of a day walker, so I kind of I know what the mentality of of your leftist ideologue is. Like, oh well, it's because they're keeping the black man down, that they wouldn't like, that's why, like, because they're so racist that they wouldn't ever like have, like, that's why black people weren't able to get sponsorships or whatever. It's just like,
No one had like a lot of really like sponsorship money. Like it was really not what we think. I mean, it's not like how it is today,
right,
where you're getting where it didn't take you know $20 million to run a race team. It
mm-hmm.
was, a lot of it was like you get like a little bit of money to pay for your tire bill or to pay for like new parts for the car, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to the extent of
Right, these
like
big
nowadays.
contracts where you get paid a certain like amount of money for over like 4 years or whatever, and
Yeah,
you
because
know
really, like sponsors, the sponsor, like the sponsorship, like way that we kind of see it today, that really didn't start to take effect until about the late '70s, early '80s. I mean, it was yeah, it really wasn't a thing up until like into the late '70s.
mm.
But nowadays we have I mean
Yes.
I don't like him, but like Bubba Wallace,
Uh-huh.
he is a very talented driver. I think he and now he's given an opportunity. He's now a race winner. He's won at the NASCAR level.
Mm.
Uh, he earned that win. Uh, and we've had some female drivers, some with more success than others, but that's the thing. Like everyone thinks, oh, it was Danica Patrick was the first one. It's like, no, there's actually been quite a few women who have been very competitive at some form, either the cup level or even in like some of the lower tier series that no one talks about. Uh, there's been a few like Asian drivers, some with like uh, different forms of success, but like they're Kyle Larson, which people don't realize, he's actually half Japanese.
Mm.
So yeah, obviously his name doesn't quite doesn't give that away, but yeah, he's actually half Japanese. So we do have
Oh
an
yeah,
Asian.
so he's got like, yeah, so he's kind of like a Bill Richmond.
Yeah, he's kicking everyone's ass in the Cup Series this year. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's won 8 races this year. He's uh, pretty much unstoppable. Um, so to cater to people who and the fans who love the sport are always going to be there, though I feel like NASCAR is trying to do everything to like kind of
Yeah,
dis
they're alienating their core audience, their
yeah,
fan base. They're alienating their fan base.
which has been supporting them for you know
Decades.
decades, and you're turning your back on them to get like this piece of like maybe a few other you know at best fair weather fans like that are not going to invest in the sport. Like trust me, like as someone who was like a diehard fan, like when my driver like oh he's sponsored by like this, like I bought like Dale Earnhardt was a Coca-Cola racing driver. I didn't buy Pepsi, I bought Coke.
Right.
It's like oh or like you'd have like If you're a Tony Stewart fan, you went to Home Depot. You didn't go to Lowe's. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't. It's that's how like crazy it is. Like that's how much like NASCAR fans care about the sport. Like our driver is sponsored by this one. Like, well, I'm not going to the competitor. I'm going to go to that sponsors like their business, and everyone was making money off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, like I don't see the same level of care or the same level of passion just because it's they're changing the sport in a way that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and part of it, like there is a little bit of problem, I think, with the product that's on the racetrack. They're focused so much on these other things that really are not super important.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to chase after like the dollars and the potential fans that they're trying to win over that don't care about the sport. And you're not worried about like how good is the product on the track? Is the racing good? Is there something that we can do to make it better? I don't think that that's happening. Um, and that's why this current era of sports, like, well, there are still certainly some exciting moments, and I still care to a certain extent, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't care like I used to anymore because I feel like a lot of these sports organizations, whether it be the MLB, the NFL, the NHL, NASCAR, I don't think that they care as much about the fans as they used to. I think they care about.
Yeah, no, I mean it's pretty self-evident, when again the NFL, like which is comprised of like 90% black players, is screaming about how like there's racism and how there's you know uh, wealth inequities, coming out. It's just absurd because again you're being lectured to by black people who have made it, who have attained positions of celebrity and power or whatever, and financial stability or security, making more than some the average working white man, but they're still screaming like, oh, I'm so oppressed. So I think yeah, so that's pretty self-evident, and it's like, and like why are you trying to court why are you trying to court people that hate you? It's like these people already think that the people that spawn like sports like NASCAR are backwards hicks.
That's not the case at all.
Right? Yeah, but that's what they think, and it's like, and you're saying that you want their dollars. They were never going to give you their dollars in the first place.
Yeah.
So like why? So like yeah, you're like it's, it's like I don't know. I'm usually better at these like kind of similes or analogies, but it's like it's you're using poison ivy to wipe your ass.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
it is. You're using poison ivy to wipe your ass. And you're knowingly wiping your ass with poison ivy.
yeah. It's we just live in a weird time. Like I do not like. I don't like the current era that we live in. It
No,
just
of
it
course not.
sucks.
Of course not. But it makes no never mind to me, because I'm not really a big sports guy. I mean, I enjoy and I appreciate the skill that it takes to be an athlete, but I can't really I don't. Yeah, I don't. I'm not one of those people that can invest all their time and knowing about the players and the stats and things like that. It's just yeah, it's just not my thing. But on a happier note, the Dodgers did win tonight by 1 run, thank God.
Hey,
So
doesn't matter by whether by 1 run or 10 runs. A win's a win.
winning is winning. Yeah, we'll take it. So yeah, we the Dodgers will have the home field advantage for 2 more games before they head back to if it gets to there. But if
Yeah,
they get back to Atlanta,
that's right. Yeah, well, we need to at least win one more game, and then it will go back to Atlanta.
yeah. So here's hoping that they win, all 3 games or the next 2 games here at home, and then they take that momentum to Atlanta and you know end this thing.
There. Yep.
And that's about as excited you'll ever see me or hear me talk about sports.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of the sports guy of this group.
Yeah.
Though it has become a little bit less so in the last couple of years, just with everything that's been going on. But you know, that's
True.
that's what it is. But why don't we get into Alice in Borderland? Because I really want to talk about that. That's
Okay. Yeah.
You've been trying to get me to watch it forever, and I finally did,
Mm.
and I couldn't stop watching it.
Yeah. No. I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, I got hooked the very first episode. Like, oh man, next episode, I gotta watch it.
Yeah, I
And
like I was right there with you. First episode
mhm.
was like, yep, I'm in.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, again, similarly, it has like a similar premise to Squid Game, but there's a little bit more of like a thriller, no, like a sci-fi element to
Well, here's the difference.
well, because Alice in Borderland is based off a manga, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure like it will take some liberties because one of the things I liked about Squid Game is because like it's based in reality. It's like, oh, this could happen. This could totally be an actual scenario where the powerful elite get these people to sign over their lives essentially to play these games in the hopes of winning a mountain of cash. But for Alice in Borderland, it's a bit intriguing because contestants aren't doing this of their own free will. They're more or less absconded to like this, I don't know, this parallel or pocket dimension where it looks like it, because again this series takes in Japan, so it looks like Tokyo, but it's like it's all like cleared out except for like the few players, and seemingly time works differently there too because what is it?
Some
Um,
people have been there for a long time. They've been there
yeah,
for like months, whereas like other players have been there like
just a couple
only
of
a
hours. Yeah.
couple hours. Yeah, that's the thing. Or like I said, this is where Alice in Borderland is much more fantastical.
Mm-hmm.
It is you're not really sure why the players got chosen.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really sure who's in charge of everything,
Uh-huh.
what their motives are. Whereas Squid
Although
Game,
you think not to give anything away too much, because I eventually want to get there. But what is it? You kind of think that it is kind of like this, this you know this thing based in reality, because you find out kind of who's been like kind of pulling the strings, but then you end up finding out that someone else is actually pulling the strings.
yeah,
Um,
it's like it's because it's
did we lose Rob for a second? He's thinking. Hold on. I think we did lose Rob. Oh yeah. Oh, we got you back. All right.
okay. Yeah, no, there are people that are competing in the games, and then they have like like there's one where they were doing they're playing tag essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and they're in this building, and you have the people that are trying to run away. They're trying to get to like the safe zone, but there's also the people going around that are the taggers.
Right.
And what it come to find
Yeah.
out
The
is that the
taggers are
taggers,
armed with MAC-10 machine guns or submachine guns.
yeah, but that they are competitors too, but they are in a different game, and
Yes.
that with like their own stakes. So it's kind
Or
of
there. Oh yeah. Again, I don't want to ruin too much because we're eventually gonna get there. But I don't, I don't even think that they're part of like the game per se, like as like kind of like the regular contestants are playing. But they are still part of some sort of system.
but they have their own objectives too that they
Right,
don't
right.
that
But I
they
wouldn't
don't.
necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're playing their own game. It's just, yeah,
Well, we don't really
they're
know.
participants in something else.
Yeah, well, we kind of find that out towards the end, like that there is something more going on, but like they are. That's the thing. I haven't quite figured out that yet, but like
Hmm.
there's something like where they weren't exactly like they had their own objectives that if they didn't meet, they would die too. That's the
Right.
thing. It's similar to like the players of the games.
Hmm. Right. Which is, yeah, I for that game, the tag game, I was confused I thought because I thought one of the taggers was one of the people that was in like that lobby when they first started. But
Nope.
on second viewing, it wasn't. Because I thought for somehow they got split off, or they got like on their phones they might have gotten different instructions to go and like get suited up or whatever to be the taggers. But that wasn't the case, and I'm glad I went back to watch the series again uh, from the beginning and not just pick up where I left off.
Yeah, that why yeah, and because there's a lot of things that like happen. Like I was like I wanted to talk to you so badly, like I about like certain things, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
oh you haven't finished the episodes yet, so I'm like
Yeah.
so I had to wait until today. Um, so initially like it starts off we have our there's three guys that are like their best friends.
Mm-hmm.
They
Lifelong friends.
yeah lifelong
Um,
friends, and they get obviously they get sent to this uh alternate dimension
mhm.
essentially, and they start competing in the games. And our main character Arasu, he is that's kind of like what his thing. He plays a lot of games, so he's has a
Yeah.
mindset for that.
But he's also kind of the slacker, not living up to his potential type person.
Yeah,
Um, but in a weird way, they're all, the all three of them are basically the same character or same person or same character, because what is it? What is it? One of their friends, Karabu, he's a bartender,
yeah,
and that, and it's a dead end job. He's never gonna advance really, in the bar. And then the other friend, Chota, um, he works at some office thing. He's probably like middle management, but like, that's kind of a dead end job too. So
and he
like,
has like a really weird past too.
yeah, he has this really weird past, like dealing like his mom was part of a cult or whatever, and um, a lot of like, yeah. But they're essentially, even though like arguably Chota and Karibu, they're like better off than Arisu. They're all at the same level.
Yeah, well, and that's also like, but they support one another.
Yeah,
They're by each other's side. They've been doing that for a long time.
right. They're a tripod. They're a tripod.
Yeah, and they get involved like in this like the first game is like they're trying to what was it like life or death, or live or die
Yeah,
or something like that, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they have to choose like the right room to go into so that they don't die.
Mhm.
Um, and they only have a certain amount of time to do it. Uh, and the only one who really figured out the game was Arasu. Like, and because I think had he not been there, I think everyone would have died.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because they would have just like randomly picked doors, and yeah, they would have died. But
Yeah,
he kind of he kind of has they kind of do or they kind of or the writers of the show gave him like that Sherlock Holmes condition where he just like kind of obsessive compulsive thing where he just kind of notices everything. So like during
Yeah.
like the game, he notices that there was a BMW. And he knows that the BMW is such and such length long, and like and three of those were make up the length of the building that they went into, and da 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 da. And yeah, it's like this whole like Sherlock Holmes, like the recent Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. It was like
Yeah.
this the obsessive compulsive where it's like, oh, I see this thing, and he sees like all the angles and is able to come up with a solution. But no awesome like slow motion breakdowns. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. But yeah.
Like this is where like this is an anime. Yeah,
Mhm,
it's has like a lot of those like anime tropes of like you get like the dramatic flashbacks.
mhm,
You get the kind of like the main character or certain characters like noticing like, hey, I they kind of figure out the strategy of like how
mhm,
to survive.
mhm,
Um, those are all like the great like anime tropes that it works. Like I said,
mhm.
it's yes, this is live action, but it's not like Squid Game. Like it's
Right.
where it's just has that anime feel to it. So I really liked it for that. I'm not knocking it for like, oh, he just somehow figured it out. Which like if this was something that was supposed to be based in reality, that would be freaking ridiculous. Like that,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
nobody
exactly.
wrote that.
Yeah. Like why would you place remember such like seemingly insignificant detail as like there being a BMW like parked in front of the building.
Exactly.
And
That's like I said. That's an anime thing. That would be
mhm,
something that an anime character would figure, would be able to notice and figure out.
right, and
So
he knows like the exact dimensions of the car, so he knows like the length of it, so he could then compute in his mind like, oh, three of those would be the length of the building.
yeah, um,
And then
and
like
then
also like noticing like the evacuation route map thing, and it's like understanding like, oh, that's not the orientation of the building. So in his mind he flips the orientation, so he's able to see like where they came in, like through the elevator, and he knew like,
right,
oh, we were in the corner of the building, and like we have to take this like certain route. And
right. Um, then like there's two other girls that like join them for the game. One of them dies like essentially immediately.
right,
Uh,
they're just like kind of like this the yeah, they're like the red shirt of that episode.
Yeah, and then the other girl who, to be honest, I actually initially thought that she was maybe like a prostitute.
Uh-huh.
But it turns out that she
I
was
know, because she looks so smart. She looks so smart.
one of my favorite characters in the movie or in the show. Um, but she ends up becoming part of that group too. They all
Mhm.
survive, and they they're working towards like what the hell is this, like where are we, where are all these like other people, like what's kind of like what's going on. And that's when you start getting into more of the games. And so what it is like
Yeah, and also she's like when she first comes onto the scene, she doesn't seem phased by any of it. So, and we understand, and then we've learned that she's actually been here for a while.
right, and they don't initially trust her because like it's like, yeah, all the people that I was playing the game with, they died except for me. And
Mm,
they thought like, oh, so she killed them all,
mm,
not realizing that there are games where that is possible, that like
right.
only one person survives.
Mm. Yeah, I think I didn't realize it until just now, but it's like that's really good foreshadowing to, the episode to come. Especially the fate of the group, of what happens, to them.
But like all these games have like their it's based off of card suits. So they have like in the first game that they play is like a four of like clubs, I
Clubs,
think.
yeah, clubs denotes like a team, a game. A diamond is I, I don't know, some
It
sort
has
of,
something to deal with wits.
yeah,
Because
something like some sort of like some type of riddle, kind.
Right, and
kind
then
of game.
you have the spades, which are like physical challenges,
Right.
and then the heart games are the toughest
Right.
because they manipulate like your emotions,
Hmm.
and I think that they were catered somehow. I feel like they were catered towards like the people that they knew would be playing those games. Uh,
Possibly, yeah. Which will, I mean, which might lend that line of thinking might lend some credence, especially when we learn about like at the end when we learn more about like who's putting on the games or
yeah.
like and things like that. But yeah, and
Um,
so
So essentially, like they and if you clear the game, the amount of like that's on the card, it denotes the difficulty of the game, but it also allows like so if you clear the game and you get like it has 4 on it, you get it because you have what's called a visa that they're allowed to be there. So if you clear a game that has like 4 on it, you get 4 extra days to live.
is
So
that how it worked?
so it forces players because if you stop playing the games and you let your visa expire,
Expire, then you
that's where like
automatically
those
just get killed.
lasers would come and kill them.
Right.
Which we see at the end of the
Okay.
first game. That guy decided like he didn't into a game in time, and he because he wanted his visa to expire, he wanted to stop playing the games because he felt there was no end, and so he killed himself essentially.
Right. He
Uh,
already allowed himself to be killed.
yeah,
But okay, that makes sense because what was it
that's
like
why they're always
when Arisu's when they were looking when they were looking for that one place whatever I'm just gonna say when they were looking for the beach and he pulled out his Visa card. There's some where it was like like 3 days and some that were like longer. So that makes
yeah.
sense because I thought it was just like regardless of the number on the card, it was always just 3 days.
No, no, it's based off the number of the cards. So like in the case of like at the end of the thing, if they got like the 10 of hearts, that's an
Mm-hmm.
extra 10 days for them if they
I
survive.
see. Okay. Well, again, that may also make sense because again, when they're looking for the beach and Arisu pulled out his Visa, like his Visa tally card thing that he was keeping. Some like one like row had like three, others had like seven, so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
that made sense. Okay, that makes sense. Again,
Uh,
really, a really important detail I missed.
yeah. Well, that's why we talk about this stuff because like there's probably maybe something that you caught that I missed. So
Mhm.
um the other thing like so from there you kind of like okay you're with the group like all right we have a new character with us. We have Shibuki who very smart and
Very smart.
Chota actually gets injured after the first game.
Yeah,
He doesn't quite get
sustains
out of
some. Yeah, he sustains like probably like third-degree burns on his leg.
yeah, his leg is messed up. He's
Mhm.
not gonna make it.
Right, and so yeah, he's gonna be a liability in any future games.
Um, and so they they would try to like work. So Karube and Arisu try to figure out like what's going on, and like they end up entering in another game, which is the um, what is it? The playing tag
Yeah, the aforementioned tag game.
in that like apartment building,
Hmm.
which is where they start to learn they learn about the idea behind the cards, like what the different suits mean.
Hmm.
They meet more characters that become important later on,
Hmm.
and it also shows like um, where they kind of figure out that like oh there's other people that are involved in these games that have different objectives like the
Hmm.
taggers they had these like horse heads on. And for whatever reason, like I don't know if like those suits gave them like extra strength or what, because the people that were in them were like one of the people that were like exposed was like this elderly woman, but like she
Yeah.
had this crazy
Well, not like
strength.
maybe like middle age, but like yeah, like she was able to fend off again. Being Japanese. Not very like big people, but like yeah, she was able to fend off like two like Japanese guys.
Like
Um,
I don't, and I wonder if like the because they had like they had like this collar on them, and I'm
Right.
wondering if like that granted them like extra strength of some sort.
Well, maybe maybe it injected like a shot of like adrenaline for them, so they could,
But yeah, they were pulling off some crazy ass moves. That's why I'm
yeah.
like,
I
what is
mean, the guy that God, what was his name?
the big guy like
Yeah, the
Ugeda?
scary ball. Yeah.
Yeah, Ugeda.
Oh, Aguni.
Abuni, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Um, yeah. I mean, he was a former soldier, and so like he was able to determine like the one other horse head guy was probably an ex-soldier too because of the way he was shooting and the way he was like the way he was gripping the gun. So like for at least for him, it made sense. But yeah, he was like yeah. When they got into that fight, it was pretty brutal.
That was crazy.
Yeah, and even if he but even if he was even if he was like an ex-soldier, that the horsehead guy, I'm sure like that collar thing, like I'm sure like gave him like a shot of adrenaline just before, so he could kind of have like the advantage.
Um, so yeah, they end up like surviving that game. Just kind of like utilizing more of kind of like you learn more about like what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but not really. Uh,
Yeah.
but then it comes time where the visas are about to expire for Chota and Shibuki. So the four of them end up having to go to a game
Mm-hmm.
together. And now also here's the perfect payoff too, where you have Shibuki was talking about like was in a game where everyone died but her. And it's also we also got told that like all the different cards have different types of games.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get into a hearts game. Oh
Mm-hmm.
shit. The seven of hearts. So this is a really difficult one. It's
Mm-hmm.
titled hide and seek. And this is where things I think get a little bit like complicated, because the way like the thing about these games, like the rules that are given, there's always some sort of twist to them.
Yeah, there's always a dual meaning. There's always a dual meaning.
Like they're not lying to you, but like they're not straightforward either.
Yeah.
And the
I mean,
idea is like
it's like sometimes it is straightforward, sometimes it's it's kind of like an innuendo, not in. So it's like yeah, again, dual meanings or like slightly cryptic, and so I don't know. I mean, I know towards the end, when Arisu kind of is like, when he's had time to think about it, he goes back and says like, oh, maybe that game did have a resolution, but I don't know.
yeah, this game is tough because so the idea behind it is where you would have essentially someone becomes it. They're the wolf, and then everyone else is the sheep. But the twist on this game is, or one of the twists on this game is that the person that is the wolf by the end of the game is this is the one that wins.
Yeah, one that's safe.
Yeah, but
So it's like a twist because you think like because you think that the wolf is the one that's going to go after the sheep, but then ultimately it becomes a sheep that hunts the wolf.
they kept focusing on the idea that like the sheep need to be quiet and like hide.
Mm.
Why? That's what I'm saying. There has to be something else to that game that we're
Right.
not
Well,
that I'm not seeing.
because I think that game. A part of me thinks that that game ended exactly the way it was supposed to end, in the way that that was the only logical conclusion to that game, because um, eventually the sheep, if they had like a really strong emotional connection to the wolf, they would want the wolf to survive. And so like, so that the wolf does survive, the sheep then therefore go and hide.
Damn. Like I don't know how to like. It's a fucked up game.
Yeah, it is. I mean, again, because it's a hard game, it messes with your emotions, and so, initially, I think again, I think a part of me thinks that was the only end to that game. Like, despite what maybe some sort of epiphany that Arisu may have had later on about saying like, oh, maybe there was a different solution to that game. A part of me doesn't think that that's the case. I think that game ends the way it's supposed to end, the way it did that we saw.
Damn. Yeah,
Um,
and
because initially it was based on fear, and so like, oh, everyone first everyone wants to be the wolf, so it's like everyone wants to be the wolf, and whoever gets the wolf like runs away, and then the sheep start go and hunt for them. But and so for first it's kind of like it's fueled by fear. It's like, oh, well, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, but then slowly, you know um, and I think that's why they did it in like that botanical garden, so that there could be like some sort of separation uh, between the players, and so that they can have that time, and eventually things that kind of have like their own little revelations. It's like, oh, I don't want to die, but my friend is such a great person. I don't want him to die, and like and he's the best out of all of us, so of course he deserves to live, and so I'm gonna sacrifice myself.
yeah, that's this is the episode because like all of a sudden like these characters that we started getting really close with that we liked, now they're
Mm-hmm.
gone. They end up Arso is the only one that survives the game. And to be honest, this felt like the Marbles episode in Squid Game, where I'm like,
Yeah.
how do I feel about this?
Mm-hmm.
This is a rough episode. I was like, and now we're essentially only on episode 3 or 4. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do now. Like, what the like?
Yeah, but then we are then introduced to a new character who we met in the previous episode, and she has like her own backstory. Kind of a sad one too. She is an outdoorsy type of girl. She's into climbing. She had a really close relationship with her father up until he either dies or commits suicide. It's not really specified which. Although
Yeah,
it is speculated in the media that he might have committed suicide, because he was like this. He was this well-known climber, and he attempted this feat where he climbs a mountain that gets really high, and you usually need oxygen, but he did it without oxygen. But the press came out and said like, oh, he faked it. He didn't. He had oxygen the whole time, and so to save face or to reclaim his honor, he goes and does it again. But during that second climb, he goes missing,
yeah.
and that's when it's speculated that he might have killed him. He might have committed suicide over like the shame of being found out or whatever. And so yeah, so now she is living with this thing over her head about like, oh, did my dad commit suicide? Or because
Right.
he didn't do what he said. Although she has no real reason to doubt her father, but she has to live with that with that over her head.
But yeah, so we do. So we meet her. She ends up becoming kind of. She ends up caring for Arsu, like kind of helping him bring him back from like kind
Mm-hmm.
of this
Yeah, the state of
terrible.
depression. Yeah, the state of
Yeah, I mean,
depression.
and gives him the will to live again.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, the next game I think that they play is the one where they have to
It's the
they're
distance one. The
the
distance.
distance one. Which here's another game that has like that twist to it, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
they're telling you what to do, but your natural reaction is like, oh shit, we have to like go run to the goal.
Right.
Uh, and they think it's like a physical challenge, and it's set in like this like kind of the underground tunnel, like with where people are driving at.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one guy that like is in there who had a sprained ankle, and so he's thinking like,
Yeah, I mean, kind of similar to Arisu, like him. Well, maybe they didn't start out as friends, but
Yeah.
they played enough games together where they formed this bond, and kind of the same way that Chota got hurt in one of the games. This other guy got hurt his leg too and became a liability. Um,
And so he ends up like, I'll stay on the bus. I'll figure out some way to get it started because um, it was a bus that didn't run necessarily on like electrical computers and stuff like that. It was more
right.
of an older style bus. And so the but he pretty much essentially sacrificed. He felt like he was sacrificing himself to save his friends.
Mhm.
And so everyone goes off running, and they keep running and running and running, and all of a sudden there's like a bunch of these like bottles like halfway through where,
Mhm.
oh, it's kind of refreshment. It's like,
Yeah, it said refreshment station.
do you think that those was actual water, or do you think that was something that would have killed them? Because they never try it, they never have it.
Right. They never have it because the girl, she she kind she's kind of because she's goes climbing and goes camping and all that stuff. She prepared herself her own bottle thing of water, which she then
Right.
shares with the group. But I think it would have been fine. I think it would actually would have been. I think it was actually just water.
Because that was kind of like the misdirection that was set up for that game. Like, I think that they
Exactly.
knew people were going to be running, so it's like, well,
Exactly.
um,
Exactly. Because I mean, like, what's the point of killing them if they if no, it could have been a possibility that the water was poisoned, but I don't think it was. Um, be, you
uh,
know, because I know because what we learned later, kind of like the people behind the scenes were also making bets, on the survival probability of the players,
right.
and so, but I don't think that they were poisoned.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. It's like, I think it's poison, but hey, you know what? This crazy like scenario we find ourselves in, you never know.
Right.
And so
Yeah, because then
it
because kind of like the game, the distance game, you start overthinking things,
right,
and so you think that because the name distance, like, oh, that means we have to get to some far off location, and so
yeah,
like even on their phones, it started like had like a tracking thing, and like I think and being Japan, it probably was the metric system, so it's like 1 meter away, 2 meter as they ran away from the bus.
yeah,
But then, like, yeah, there was no definitive distance that the game said that you have to run. So you just have to get to the goal.
right, yeah. And so they eventually I think they end up like 12,000 meters away, which is a lot. That's a long distance. That's
Yeah, I think that's what almost a mile, maybe almost 2 miles.
yeah. I think it's about 2 miles.
Yeah, and so yeah, and they end up at like the end of the tunnel, but there's like this wall thing, um,
Like, yeah, it's this
in
giant
front of
wall.
them. Yeah, it's like this big wall thing. And they're just wait, and then the girl and one of the guys from the group. Here's a quick thing I wanted to ask you. Do you think the panther was part of the challenge, or do you think that was just some random panther?
That was the thing that because that whole area was dark.
Uh huh.
Like, so because the whole thing had been lit up, right? Like the
Right,
whole
right.
thing,
Yeah. So
except for
like
the area.
when they first started off to when they got to the end, it was all like kind of like that incandescent yellow light. But then as soon as they got to that middle part, it was dark.
Something
And it
tells
was
me
it was a black panther too. So.
something tells me that that was part of the challenge too, because I think that they realized that people aren't gonna like catch on that they're not supposed to run. Like, they were actually in the goal. They just needed to not do anything, and that they were gonna probably run towards the distance.
Mhm.
And they set that up as like, maybe as like with like the water bottles, which may or may not have been water. The panther is another challenge that like is an obstacle for them.
Mm. So I was thinking that maybe you know, because I'm not sure, like, if, like, when, the players got shifted into like this alternate, Tokyo or whatever, like, did like the animals come too? And so, like, is it one of those things where, you know, however long people have, been going to this, did, like, did the animals just kind of escape, were able to escape and kind of
Well,
roam around now?
that's the thing. It's like I actually think that they were brought by whoever's running these games
Hmm.
because there's another challenge that like our main characters aren't in, but like they're
Right.
having to hunt down animals.
Right. I was just about to bring that up, but yeah, because yeah, the one of the games is like like beast hunt, and you get points for, you get a certain amount of points for killing certain animals. There's like a tiger and another like panther, and there's like like a crow. You get 1 point, and so
Yeah.
like the bigger the beast you kill, the more points you get.
So,
So yeah, you're probably right. The panther was probably part of the challenge.
but come to find out at the end, and then Artisu like finds like more like diesel fuel from like in a motorcycle.
Hmm.
That's like, oh, this would be great for the bus. And so he ends up running back to save the other guy because he didn't want to hit like his friends being dead. He didn't want other people to die too. And so
Right.
he runs back to save the guy.
Hmm.
And you're thinking like, oh fuck, he's just getting further and further away from the
The
goal.
goal, yeah.
And uh,
Yeah. Plot twist.
plot twist is like the the number was not distance to the goal. It was distance
Oh,
from the
from the
goal.
goal,
And
which
the bus, as we, is all tagged up and stuff. Come to find out, it was tagged up as goal.
yeah, like written right
Goal
along the side of the bus. But the way that they approached it, they wouldn't have seen it.
because when they approach the bus, the doors are open, so
Right.
you don't see that it actually says goal.
Right. Yeah. And like the front of the bus is pointed straight at you, and so as you're walking, you're walking to it. You're not gonna, and you see that the door is open on the side. You're not gonna go and like investigate, the side of, what's written on the side of the bus.
Yeah, you wouldn't think anything about that, and
Yeah.
so that's the twist of that game. It was like, damn, and so people needlessly died in that game. And it's funny, the guy that sacrificed himself with like or
He's the
thought
one
he was
that ended up
sacrificing himself,
surviving.
the
Yeah.
only one that survived that from that group.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting that he didn't just latch on to, Arisu and the girl, after his friends died. At the end of the conclusion of the game, he's like, oh, if um, I hope I'll see you guys later, and then he kind of like lives off, to do his own thing.
And we never see him again, so he probably
He
died.
presumably died. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what was the next game after that? Because they
Well, no, they were kind of running off. They were kind of enjoying. They were able to kind of rest because of the visa. But they were investigating.
because
Uh,
he was trying to find the beach.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
what
The
they were trying to
beach.
do. Which we're thinking like, what is the beach? Like, we don't know anything about it. It's a
Yeah.
kind
Is
of
it like a
mysterious.
literal beach, or is it just like a code word? They
Yeah.
they they were they were surmising that it could have been like a refugee shelter, for people that that might have been evacuated from
Right.
the city. But it turns out that the beach is just a hotel, which actually was called the Seaside, Tokyo, or Seaside Paradise, I believe it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seaside Paradise Tokyo, a resort hotel, which then like some players took it over and renamed it the beach, and it it was like kind of a refuge, but also kind of like a cult, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Crazy.
because the guy who like started it, you know he basically was trying to galvanize or get together enough people to kind of co-op it, and like try and work together and get all the cards, and see if they couldn't get themselves home.
Hmm.
um, but it kind of devolves pretty quickly into like this, this quasi cult, where where like the charismatic leader, he addresses the people and it's like, oh yeah, as long as you're here, enjoy yourselves, and but you still have to contribute. It's almost like a commune.
Oh yeah.
Um, you know,
Well, I think because he went from being like a pretty normal guy
mm-hmm,
to, I think, being turned crazy by like the environment that they're in,
mm-hmm,
and he felt like, oh, this is a place where we can be safe and create this utopia and like start
yeah,
over again.
mm-hmm,
When in reality, like he at that point, like when he was when they found that like whole hotel, he was already like going kind of nuts.
right, yeah. I think maybe like the stress of constantly competing and trying to figure out like what the meaning of the cards were. Like he just kind of like it just kind of broke his mind.
Well, and
Um,
then he figured too, like, okay, well, if you're gonna be here, you're gonna help contribute and find these cards so that we can all kind of get out of here. Because his idea was that like, oh, if we collect all the cards, that means it will be done, and then we can get the hell out of here and stop
mhm,
playing the games.
right,
Which, to be honest, that was actually like when I was before we got to that point. Like that was like, I wonder what would happen if they collect all the cards.
right.
Does that
Yeah,
mean it's
and I mean that'd be a logical conclusion or a logical thought to have.
yeah? I thought so too. I would have thought that.
Mhm. But yeah, but it's kind of like the problem with all like charismatic kind of leaders. They kind of they break their brains essentially.
Yeah.
And he kind of starts believing what he's peddling. Um,
Yeah. Plus the people that are surrounding him too, like come to find out, like one of them I think may have been very like, manipulating a lot of different things too, which may have
right,
made him worse.
right. A plant.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the inner circle type people might have been a plant. Um, and so yeah, it's so like all these people are able to enjoy the high life, because it's in a resort hotel. There's like a club, and and
Booze and
booze
I
and
mean
and
all sorts.
food and things like that. Although I don't know about how long the food would last in that scenario, especially like without like a supply chain.
Well, and this is also where like, yeah, maybe you're thinking too hard about it, but like
Yeah.
you don't know how much time has passed either. Like,
Right. Right. Right.
who knows?
Well, I
Like,
mean, well, when Arisu went to go explore, he found that car, and there were like groceries in it, and they're all
got it away.
rotted away, and they've only been there for a couple of days. So
Who knows?
who knows?
We really don't know like
Yeah, we
how
really
much
don't know.
like and is that time consistent throughout the whole town, or is it like certain parts that like maybe like like time is different in certain parts? We really just don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, and so yeah, I mean, the leader who Aguni refers to as the Hatter, kind of playing more into like that, Lewis
That
Carroll,
that's what I was like. Oh,
Alice
the
in
here's
Wonderland
the
thing.
Borderland thing. This is like this. Here it is.
Yeah, the Hatter, like he even says as much, like yeah, as long as you're here, you can drink as much as you want, you could take drugs, you could have sex, you can do whatever, but you have to contribute, and that's
Yeah,
one like, but
all your
all
cards go to me.
yeah, but all your cards go into like the communal pot, as it were. But then also it's like you can never betray the beach. You know,
Yeah, if you do, you're dead.
yeah, death. Yeah, all traitors must die. In no uncertain terms, he lays it out like traitors die.
Yeah.
So it kind of puts Arisu and the girl in a kind of like, okay, well, yeah, we're a part of this now.
And then like they both get like put in separate games, like as like a test,
Hmm.
the test of
Yeah,
like
well,
their
Arisu
loyalty.
Arisu specifically. Um,
Yeah.
on the recommendation of one of the kind of like executive like inner circle types, which we we find out to be is one of the players other than Aguni, uh, who was with who played the tag game with him.
That's right. Who was kind of like up at like the kind of sitting watching everything.
Yeah,
Who's
yeah, yeah.
very interesting character.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up going to like this I guess like this underwater like power plant or whatever, or I don't know like what that would even like be called.
Right.
um, but essentially like they're playing, it's a game against time, and it's a puzzle where you're
Yeah, the
trying to
room is filling with water, and then there's like this kind of like exposed like generator thing with contacts like coming down, and like you had to like figure out like there was 3 switches, and you had to determine which of the switches turned on this light bulb in another room, and you
yeah
only had
and
one
like
shot to answer.
yeah and the thing like the puzzle behind that is you if when the door is open with the light bulb, you have one chance like to get the switch right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't get it right, like you can't, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have the door closed, you can switch the switches on as much as
Like,
you want.
mm-hmm.
And obviously like the water is filling in really close. One girl, for some dumb reason, she freaks out and like touches one of like the cords and
Yeah.
electrocutes herself. It's like, well, there you go, dummy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, now
Right.
you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
um and they're trying to figure out the probability of like how to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, and you have like one of the like executive like inner circle people there to like evaluate
she's
him.
just calm as can be, because I think
Yeah,
she'd already figured it out, but
yeah,
she's going to make sure that Arsu like figured it out.
right. Because if she's like evaluating him for possible like a seat, within the inner circle, then
Yeah.
yeah,
And he figures it out like where it's like, okay, well, we can wait a second, we can um what we can do is like uh so they tried like doing one switch, right? Like, okay, that didn't turn it on. I was like, but wait, now let's close the door, because now we can switch the switches on and off like no matter what. So okay, let's switch on A, and then he would help like the time's ticking down. It's like, no, just leave the door closed, like just give it a few more seconds. And it's like he turned the switch off, and then open the door, and it's like, now touch the light bulb. It's like, what are you talking about? Just touch the damn light bulb. And it's like, and she's like, it's hot. It's like, nope, that's a switch. Boom. And he figured it out. It's like, now you switch that probability from being 33% to
to
100%.
100%.
So, and that
Yeah.
was kind of like, okay, that actually sounds like kind of a fun game, but
Just without the death part.
yeah, without the death part. But that would be a fun like escape room game.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, all these games are kind of like escape room games, but with the added flavor of death.
Yeah, that's what I was like, because those are really popular, and I think that's where like I think these ideas have come from.
Yeah.
Is
yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah, and like and I'm sure uh, uh, your friend, we interviewed him.
oh yeah, my friend Kevin.
Kevin, that's right. Yeah, he's a big escape room enthusiast. And I'm sure he loved this show.
Oh, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I should ask him about that. He probably would like the
Yeah.
Squid Game, and this is like, oh, this is just escape room stuff. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so so Arisu passes, and so.
But we start to see like from
Yeah,
that
but
he becomes an executive. But then you start to see like that the beach is not all it's supposed to be. There's a lot of tension with different factions within the beach, and things really start to go downhill pretty quickly. And Hatter ends up like his visa is starting to run out, and so he ends up having to compete in the game. And based off of like what we find out, I think he's the only one that survived. Because he was talking about like, oh, I'll bring all these people that are willing to sacrifice themselves for me. so it gives me a better chance, for me to like
Oh, okay.
survive the games. And like the one that was like the that Mira chick who she's a freaking nutcase too.
Ooh,
She's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
yeah.
She looks.
It's always the hot ones.
Oh, I mean, she's very attractive, but she is
Yeah. It's
nuts.
always the hot ones that are
Yeah,
crazy as shit. Um,
but yeah, so that ends up happening. But come to find out, we next time we see Hatter, he's dead. He got
yeah,
shot.
get shot. And,
And it's like
and yeah, and like we don't know like how, like did some
was
are
that part of the game?
speculating that did the game that he played involve guns? But yeah, he's dead, and so like there's a grab for power. Um, and even though there's a guy with, because like everyone wears a numbered bracelet, like a locker key,
Right.
that denotes like kind of like their status basically within the group. And even though there was already a number two guy, who you would think logically would take over, uh, Aguni and his faction, used this opportunity to seize power. And so, kind of in a coup d'état, Aguni's men install him as the new leader of the beach
By force.
by
Yeah.
force, by force.
Yep.
And so he becomes a new number one, and his faction is basically in charge now. And I forget his name, but he's like the really sly one, the one of the executives.
Karisu.
Yeah, Karisu. He recruits Arisu. Is it no the wily one with the
Yeah, no,
long hair?
I think that's his. Hold on a second. I think that's his name. Hold on a second. Let me.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't want to keep referring to him as that one executive dude.
You're right. Let's see. Hold on a second here. Sorry, Chishia is his name.
Chishiya, yeah, okay. Chishiya recruits Arisu into getting collecting all the cards and escaping the beach. And so he devises this plan where Arisu will go into the what is it the royal suite or wherever where Hatter used to live, and get the cards. But shocker of shockers, he was just using
Artistry.
Arisu as a scapegoat, and
Cold blooded.
yeah, cold blooded, yeah. um, it's so funny because he reminds me of Gin in on Bleach, the one that looks like a fox.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too.
But yeah, but I mean, so you start to realize why like certain anime characters are drawn the way they are, because it's like, yeah, that's how they look, or um,
But yeah, so and that's like that. That was I think that was Chishia's way of like because he has a bigger plan. Like he's not an evil guy. Like that's not what he's not evil, but
he's an opportunist. That's what it is.
he's
He's
an
an
opportunist.
opportunist,
He was using this as a way to like where it was kind of deflecting attention away from him
right?
and like
But it was also a way for him to find out the actual location of the cards.
bingo, yeah,
Which
and
what like, yeah, because when Arisu was sent into the room, he's like, oh, you'll find a safe, and it's just kind of like your ho hum run of the mill safes. But yeah, oh, God, how do you pronounce his name?
Chishia,
Chishia devises like, oh no, it wouldn't be held in like, it wouldn't be put in some safe that anyone can access. It would be hidden. And so, like through this subterfuge or this setup of Arisu, he determines where the safe is, which is behind a deer, a painting of a deer on a wall. And so, late after all the hubbub goes down, he's able to go back into the room and collect the cards in the actual safe behind the painting of the deer.
um, yeah. So like there's that like so Chishia like figures out where the cards are gonna be at, which he ends up stealing later on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and right at this time, all of a sudden it's like the resort, the beach becomes an area for the games. It's like, oh shit. This is after and Artisu is like beaten to within an inch of his life, and then like kind of strapped to a chair, left to die. Essentially, it's like we're gonna just let your visa expire, and no one will know that you're here.
Mm-hmm.
So, but right around that time is like after it's revealed that Hatter was murdered. That's where the game starts again,
Mm-hmm.
and the last card that they need is the Ten of Hearts, and lo and behold, this is a Ten of Hearts game. Um, and so it's revealed. It's called Witch Hunt, which it's a really fucked up game. You have essentially like, oh, there's someone was murdered, and like the witch is like responsible for her death. You have to figure out who's the witch and then throw them upon like this bonfire that is set up for them. It's like, Jesus, this is gonna get nuts,
Right.
and all hell breaks loose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's when Aguni like kind of like he has his own like kind of mental break, and he's like him and his militants or him and his factions just start like killing people.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
and like there's a few people who are like thinking like, no, something's, let's figure out like who we can figure out who the witch is.
mm-hmm.
It's like we just need like a few moments. Like, let's think about this. Like, we can take the evidence around this. Like, let's figure out like if there's fingerprints on the knife. Let's do all this stuff. And it's like, no, we just need to kill everybody. It's okay. And like we need to just go crazy. And that's a lot of people die in this game.
Yeah. Oh, oh, I see. I'm sorry. I was just looking up the cast, and I just realized that that character, it's the Japanese way of saying Cheshire, like Cheshire Cat.
Oh, that's, you're right. Oh my god, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Well, because it says like in English Cheshire. So
Oh man, that's interesting.
yeah.
He totally
Um,
is the Cheshire
yeah,
Cat.
he is. So yeah, he totally is. So that makes sense. Uh, yeah. So here from hence on forth, I'll be referring to him as Cheshire, just to
Yeah.
be easier.
uh, but anyways,
Yeah, so
like,
yeah, the beach becomes an arena for one of the games, and yeah, Aguni like he snaps and he starts killing everybody. At this time, Arisu is
trapped
trapped, tied up, because his visa is about to expire. Um,
uncomfortably so. Like, that's electrical tape. Like, it looks like either.
yeah, it's like over his eyes and his ears and his mouth. So it's like yeah, so when that's like ripped off, like that's gonna like pull some hair too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and then
that
tied
was,
to a chair. Um, so yeah, it's you start getting some character development for Aguni's faction, the militants, and there's like the one psychopath. What was his name? Niragi,
yeah,
the one with the
Naragi.
gun. The one with the gun. Like you find out that he was bullied, and so like he's taking it out on the world essentially. Um, and
And
then
then
you have
I forget the guy with the sword with the katana. Like, what his
yeah,
name?
I forget too.
But like I said, this is where the anime uh comes in. This is where the anime style comes in, where
Mm-hmm.
you get to these moments that are throughout the chaos where certain characters meet up and it's like it's a battle. It's like
Yeah.
this happens in anime all the time.
Uh huh.
It's the middle of a war and it's like all of a sudden these two characters.
Yeah, like yeah, it's a big beginning of like this huge massacre, but these two people have to have a showdown.
Yeah, which is great. I love it in anime all the time,
Mhm.
and I'd say actually these were some good. This is some good like fights. These were
Yeah.
some fun fights.
Mhm.
Because the guy with the katana who is clearly nuts. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
clearly nuts. But but in his like kind of like backstory, you find out that he's a bit of a nihilist.
yeah,
Um,
which makes a lot
and
of sense.
yeah, which makes a lot of sense. And like he started off as kind of like this shut-in type character where it's like all the explored places have been explored. There's nothing new. The fact like there's nothing new under the sun. What is my generation supposed to do?
Right.
and he writes like this manifesto, talking about like will, particularly about this one explorer who tried to reach the North Pole and like tried and failed like 6 different times until he finally made it. Like even to the point of losing like appendages from frostbite. And so yeah, he's kind of like this really big nihilist where it's like, oh, like will I ever have that kind of moment and yada yada yada. And he seemingly gets his wish, because he gets put into the game. And he kind of has like this butterfly moment where like before he was like very emo, like with like the long hair, but he then goes and like transforms himself by shaving his head, and then he's able to see. He's able to
Found
seek out. Yeah, he finds the one tattoo artist in the game and tells him like, "Oh, make me so I can never return to
real world.
the real world again." And so, he puts like these really dramatic face tattoos, on him, and he just starts walking around with a big sword. So
Yeah, and it's I don't know how long he was there, but like all of a sudden he's very skilled with the katana, like where I don't think he had ever wielded one in his entire life,
right, exactly.
which is like okay, that's kind of like odd. And then he ends up fighting with Chisha's like partner Quina, who she it's like all of a sudden like she has like some pretty good moves herself. Like she's dodging him, and she doesn't have a weapon, but she keeps dodging him.
Uh-huh.
Um, and this is where I was asking you the question is like I don't know if this was part of the manga or if this was like a Netflix ad where her backstory is. Now, here's what I initially thought. I was like, it was like, oh, her dad wanted a boy, but
Uh-huh.
because she was a girl, like pretty much like made her do all the boy stuff.
Uh-huh.
And like she had this moment like where like she wanted to be like more girly and was starting to like try to deal with like makeup and all that
Uh-huh.
stuff.
Uh-huh.
But no, that is not what
No.
happened. I don't think that was what was happening because all the descriptions say that like nope, she was a boy that became a girl.
Yeah,
So
snip snip. Yeah. She got the snip snip.
uh
Or he got the snip snip.
yeah, and I'm just like, oh jeez, here we go. You could have turned something like into something good, or like been an interesting thing, and like you had to just throw that in there. It's just like that's why I'm like, if now if it was part of the manga, it'd be one thing, but I don't know if it is or not. But something
Yeah.
tells me that was Netflix.
Well, I mean, here's one of the things that I really enjoyed about Alice in Borderland and Squid Game is that they had realistic depictions of women.
Yeah,
Particularly, what's her face? Shibuki and that one like crazy prostitute lady in Squid Game,
yeah,
where they play to their strength. You know,
yep.
Shibuki got the trust of Chota by by sleeping with him, and similarly in
He did.
yeah, and similarly in Squid Game, that crazy prostitute lady got in the good graces of
The gangster.
the gangster Tesu by by boffing him.
Yeah,
So it's like in that kind of situation where like because and that's why it's great that these shows particularly came out from non-Western countries
yeah,
because they're still able to say that women are different and women are going to play to their strengths. And here's two examples in this crazy over the top situation. Women being physically uh, smaller and weaker than men, they're gonna attach themselves to. Well, I mean, in the case of Chota, he's not necessarily the biggest or the strongest, but you know, she ingratiated herself into that group. And similarly, in Squid Game, that lady ingratiated herself into the gangsters group
yep,
through using feminine wiles.
yeah.
So and that's what I appreciated about both these shows because realistic depictions of women. I mean, they're not necessarily weak, but they are
But they
playing to
know
their
that like they're
strengths.
not physically stronger than these guys,
Exactly.
so they use what they have to outsmart them somewhat.
Exactly. I mean, it's no different than when Natasha Romanoff uses her own her good looks to trick guys into just like spilling the, like in like the Avengers, the quote unquote interrogation scene with like that Russian general where he just like
Yep.
where he thought that he had her and but she he just starts spilling his guts, thinking that he'd won.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm it's there's nothing wrong with playing it's it's okay to be
That is
feminine.
strengthened another way.
Yeah, exactly. You're just strong in another way. And even Natasha, Black Widow's fighting style, it relies heavily on surprise, like a
Yeah.
lot, like and confusion, where they do like this crazy, the thing with the legs and around and swinging them around, and that type of fighting style it lends itself more to being a woman because you have to, get your opponent off guard and you have to do something to distract them to
Yeah.
get the
That
upper hand.
induces their momentum against them.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I really enjoyed that part of the show.
But yeah, no,
But yeah,
I
like yeah, I was totally confused with like the what was her name?
Quina or
Kina.
Kibi.
Yeah, yeah. I was really confused. I thought that story was the sword guy's story.
That's what I thought too. That's what I thought, and I think that they
Yeah,
were trying to make it seem like that too.
yeah. That's why they made it like kind of confused until it was like finally revealed, where it's like, when because before Quina like was talking about her mom having cancer or whatever, and then you have like the final reveal because you have the mom trying to implore pre-snip Quina to like oh stay don't go and then finally when Quina goes to visit uh, the mom it's like this is the new me.
Uh,
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think it was a Netflix demand to kind of push the narrative.
yeah, I just had that feeling,
Yeah. But it's
but
just like, but I think your idea would have been much more compelling of a story, or at least backstory for the character. Where it's like here, here's a girl whose dad like chopped up, who wanted a son, but for whatever reason didn't get one, and like maybe you could have made it so like after her, the mom wasn't able to have any more children because of some complication, and she had to have a hysterectomy or whatever.
yeah,
And so, the father was so upset by that he forced the daughter to cut her hair and act like a boy, and then taught her martial arts. And so, like she wanted to explore like the feminine side of her, but her father wouldn't allow her, and then so she had to leave to.
that's a much better story.
That would have been so much more compelling for the story as opposed to like, oh, I was a boy who just wanted to be a girl. It was like, oh, it's so boring.
Yeah, boring.
It's so
Not,
boring. There's nothing compelling about that idea at all. It's like,
no, I still like her character. It's just like,
mm-hmm,
but like it could have been a much more compelling character.
mm-hmm,
Um, but yeah, so you have those moments in at the beach. Um, come to find out that they end up rescuing Arisu. Come to find out the Hatter was killed by Aguni
mm-hmm,
for kind of the some of the reasons that we were talking about. He had gone Hatter had gone nuts, and I think Aguni, who had been killing the traitors, um, had kind of like he was getting tired of it, and
mm-hmm.
he was like, "This guy has got to go. He's
Right.
become."
Oh, well, like and then and the other biggest revelation is that they were actually friends.
They
You
were
know,
best friends.
they were best friends. And again, the reason why Aguni called him Hatter was because he
He
actually
ran a
sold
hat shop.
hats. Yeah, he
He
ran a hat
ran
shop.
a factory.
He's a haberdasher.
Yeah,
um, so yeah, and and then you see, and then what is it? And with Arisu kind of figures everything out about like how like I recognize the pain in your eyes, and he deduces that Aguni killed the Hatter,
yeah,
because the pain in his eye is like the reason why. he was killing everybody is because Aguni blamed everyone else for Hatter's like
Mania.
yeah, mania. Because they were just like kept feeding into his ego and like making him think that oh yeah, you're right, of course Hatter, of course, basically yes man. And so he didn't care like who was the witch or not, and so he just like killed everybody because he hated everybody for turning his friend into what he had become. Um, and then what is it? Yeah, and then yeah, so Arisu kind of deduces all this, and yeah, and Aguni just starts having like this death wish where he just like admits that he is the witch, even though he's not the witch, but like he just he just like yeah, like he just had a death wish, and then kind of flashing back. I'm sorry, yeah, and Arisu starts piecing things together like about the beach.
Yeah.
Talking about like, oh, why is it that you guys have all these guns and yet Aguni and the militants aren't running things? Is it because Aguni was like holding them back from taking over?
Right.
And again he deduces that they were friends and whatnot, and yeah, and even in a flashback to the day where Hatter dies, Aguni even admits to as much, where it's like, hey man, we gotta do something because I can't hold back these guys any much longer. They're gonna go crazy and they're gonna take over. So like
Yep.
why don't we just get out of there? Let's just you and me, like the old like when we first got here, let's just get out of here and just go on our own. But of course, Hatter, he couldn't let go, and ultimately, like Hatter draws on Aguni, and Aguni being the skilled ex-soldier that he was, he puts one in his heart. Uh, but come to realize, when he went to go check the gun, there was no bullets.
Yeah, that's where I think a lot of the pain came from, is like, what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
Because he was devastated when he saw that there was nothing in the gun.
Yeah, but I mean, shit, man. I mean, Rob, you draw down on me, I'm gonna shoot you.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter if the gun's empty. You don't
Exactly.
draw a gun on somebody unless you're planning on shooting them.
Exactly. I mean, unless like Hatter, had a death wish himself,
Maybe he did.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was like, maybe he, because the final the last game that he was a part of was part of like a host bar that he used to work at called the Beach, which is why he got the idea of calling this new place the Beach.
Yeah.
But maybe like that the last game being there just kind of like it was the final thing, like broke him, and like he's like maybe like, I can't do this anymore. Um, I don't know, but I don't think. But I don't. I mean, I might say that, but I don't think necessarily Hatter wanted to die. I don't
Yeah.
think that's the case.
No. It just kind of. See, this is great storytelling though. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then we also find out. Meanwhile, back to the game, you have the girl that died. Artisu, like, well, the one of the executives who was doing like the kind of the investigating, trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
She figured it out, but like we're like, oh shit, I know who it is, and then she gets knocked out by some crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
But Artisu also figures it out after he gets released, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
she's the witch. This is like because he was thinking back to like all the games where there's always some sort of twist to it. Like it's not what we think it is, and in reality, most likely, like the game masters knowing that their signature, the witch is right there, dead. And we didn't have to kill anybody. We
Mm-hmm.
just threw her on the fire. Someone was already dead, and the game would be over. And come to find out, that's exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the girl ends up getting like she recovers and she wakes up like, yeah, like I have the evidence, like it's a self-inflicted grip on the knife.
Yeah, it
She
was a reverse grip.
Yeah, reverse grip, yeah. And but still, like, there's still like, because Agni wants, like, he's, in his depression rage, and he's trying to get everyone to kill him, saying that he's the witch.
Yeah.
And the other girl that was the dead girl's like best friend, she said, like, we towards the end we get like these like little clips of like them to get video clips of them together,
Uh,
and she says, like, I'm gonna give us a distraction to like buy you guys some time to get her and throw her on the fire. And she
mm,
just, all of a sudden, she just yells out this like random like comment. It's like, I'm the dealer, and like,
yeah.
what the fuck does that mean? Like,
Right.
what is
And all of a sudden,
it's like it's shouting like Michael Scott in The Office, like bankruptcy, where he's just, yelling something random out of
yeah.
nowhere, and then like this laser comes out, like those lasers come out, and
Yeah. The laser comes down and takes her out.
it's like, what the fuck just happened?
Right.
And so, well, anyways, that buys us the time to get that girl on the fire. Game cleared, and the phone, one of like her phones like drops out after like her death with like all the video and stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
come to find out that she was one of those people that like they watch, and it's like there were people that were manipulating the games, thinking maybe they were thinking like, oh, that these are the game masters
Yeah.
that are running everything. I was like, and at first I was like, oh please, I was like, that's way too much like, or Squid Game is way too much like this. Obviously this came out first, but it's like,
Right.
is that what it's gonna be? That's kind of disappointing a little bit, because where like how like that feels like there's so much more like that's there. I was like, okay, well, they kind of, if that's what it's gonna be. But these girls were being forced to, like, they're setting up all the games. They're injecting themselves in the games and kind of manipulating things like to set up people to die and all this stuff. And they had grown this like really, this conscience, like, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. Just so that we can live. What is it going to take? Um, that's the so there's like that issue, and so the beach essentially falls apart. It gets burned to the ground, and Arsu and like the girl, they end up finding, they use the information base that they found through the video to find that lair where the supposed like game masters are at, and they find everyone's dead. The whole
Yeah.
group is dead.
Yeah. Everyone got lasered.
Yeah. And it's like, what the fuck is happening here? And come to find out, like, not far behind them is Chishia and Quina, who also kind of got out of there. And it's like, well, we got all the numbered cards, and all of a sudden the screens start lighting up again, and whose face do we see? But that crazy chick Mira, who we kind of conveniently forget about, like, because she was
Yeah,
there.
like
And then
she was there, but then all of a sudden, like, she disappeared, and like because of all like the chaos, you don't really think about her.
yeah, we're not we're
Um,
not we're not focused on her at all.
yeah,
Um, and it's like, oh shit, like, was she the game master?
yeah. Or was
And
she like one of kind of like how she was one of the executives at the beach? Is she like kind of like one of the inner circles for whoever's putting this thing on?
that, yeah, we still don't know yet, but that's essentially, it's like, she's like, oh, you, congratulations, you got all the number cards, guess what, you get to play more games. And like, she's talking, her speech is terrifying and
Yeah,
like just
it was
creepy as
creepy as all hell.
um and it's like they, the fireworks go off, like the fireworks that go off at the very beginning of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, and then
we
all of a sudden, like these airships come flying overhead, carry like these giant, face
face
cards.
cards,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my god, and I can just imagine how terrible those face games are going to be.
Oh man, they're gonna be brutal. They're gonna be brutal for sure. Um,
But that's the end of the first season. We'll get a second season of this coming out.
yeah,
Um,
it's supposed to come out this December, so not
yeah,
too far.
so pretty soon, a couple months
Yeah,
from
pretty
now.
soon.
So, um, yeah, great show.
Yeah, this wow, we really wow we did like like a episode breakdown for each one. We took up a lot of time talking about this, but it was a really good show. Don't get me wrong. Um, I've been saying the last couple of weeks now that I give the edge to Squid Game because I like how it's more based in reality.
Yeah.
That was when I was still like 2 episodes away from finishing Alice in Borderland, and now having actually finished it, I'm a little torn. I'm gonna admit,
Porn.
but
Porn too.
for me, I would still give the edge to Squid Game. Even though I thought this was a great, really good show, and for the most part, I do like how it ended. Although I do have a problem of Cheshire being at the control room at the end. I don't know how he was able to figure that out.
Well, remember he took that paper out of like one of the taggers in that game, and he was like he couldn't figure out like
Oh, that's right.
what that design meant, and it
Mm,
turned he figured out it's like, oh, this is a subway tunnel. But I think the other thing I'm thinking about too, I think that he's been watching Arsu a lot and knows that he's very clever,
uh,
and it's like he may have followed him.
ah, okay. Well, he definitely couldn't have gotten past the security lock thing with it because Arisu because the video that the girls made
Yeah,
where yeah was the one with the passcode. So even if Cheshire was able to figure it out, he wouldn't have been able to get in.
that's what I'm
So
saying. I
that
think he
makes
followed.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that was like yeah that's what was bothering me for a while. I was like, how did Cheshire get there? And then like you reminded me of like the map thing, but it's like but I think that was such a weak kind of like breadcrumb that the writers left the people the
yeah.
audience. I think that was a really weak breadcrumb. Like like after the hide and seek game when when Cheshire was checking the dead body and he found that map. It's like I think that was a really weak breadcrumb.
True. Yeah, it was, but it's hey, it's sometimes in animes, it is kind of like that where we're given like a little bit, but not like the whole. We wish we
Right.
had gotten a little bit more.
Right. Sometimes it be like that.
Yeah,
You know.
but it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like in Inspector where James Bond inexplicably falls in love with Madeline Swan, but it's like you don't understand why.
Yeah, that was like another one's like okay.
Yeah, it's like why does he love her?
Yeah,
You know, for the convenience of the plot. Okay,
yeah. I like I said, if you think about it too hard, then you're like that's not what you're supposed to do. Like just suspend your disbelief for a short time.
right, exactly. All right, so since we talked about all the episodes, um, since we already and we talked about Squid Game, the week before or the weeks before. What about you? I still kind of give the edge to Squid Game. What about you? How do you feel?
I Yeah, I guess I had to give the edge to Squid Game just a little bit, just because, like I said, it is more like, oh shit, this is something that could really happen.
Mhm.
Um, but it's not like this massive gap between them. Like you know, y- right now, like I might even like I'm really close to saying Alice in Borderland just because I just watched it.
Right.
It's kind of
Yeah, but
like,
then
oh,
that's
but
like
like
that recency bias.
yeah, and so I really don't have I don't have a decision. I know it's kind of a cop out, but
Mm.
I can't really choose between them because I don't. Yes, do they have similar ideas with them? Sure, but they are actually vastly different.
Yeah. It's like because where Squid Game is like overtly talking about current contemporary issues about about economics and personal financial um,
Problem.
problems and things and like the discrepancy between like the haves and haves not. Alice in Borderland is not. they're touching on similar ideas, but it's not as plainly stated. I think
Right.
because obviously when you find out that this is being put on by this organization that that uses human beings, and even that like within like their ranks, they're making bets on like who's gonna win this game, who's gonna die in that game.
Right.
So there is that as well, but it's not as plainly stated uh, as Squid Game, and I don't think they're necessarily saying the same things about it,
Right.
um, because because ultimately the even the kind of like the what I like to call what I'm gonna be calling the facilitators, the ones at the keyboards monitoring things from like that situation room, they're ultimately expendable, and so
Yeah.
like they it didn't matter that they were facilitating the games, they were ultimately expendable.
Yep.
Whereas in Squid Game, you know I I saw this video kind of debunking the idea that players and guard or behind the scene employees were picked through that card game at the beginning,
Yeah.
because you do see, because what was pointed out to me in that video is that they do show, when they do show all of the people in that room playing the thing that playing the card game, they do show what was it? They do show people within that room using the red card too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so it isn't just based like if you pick the blue one, then you're a player, and if you pick the red one, you're a worker.
I
That's not
I
it.
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, like an organization that big, and the amount and the amount of secrecy that they probably pay the workers pretty well. They'd have to, despite.
You know, man, that's the thing. I'm like, I hope that maybe they touch on that a little bit in the next season,
Mhm.
just because I'm so curious as to, like,
Right, but but the guards the triangle level employees, they're obviously like former police or ex-military, because you wouldn't trust some guy you picked up off the street with a gun.
right.
So yeah, so I think uh, the masked workers are actually employees.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. They're just
Yeah.
like on a lower rung.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the circle ones for sure, because they do like most of the menial stuff, like the cooking and the body disposal and the
Yeah.
driving of the players to the ferry and stuff. So
Right.
yeah, so
Um,
I think they are actually employees, and like they're paid a pretty relatively good salary. I mean, you'd have to
okay.
if you're willing to dispose of bodies and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although
That's
although another theory is that like um, like the triangle guys and some of the circle employees are recruited from like gangs,
oh,
because there's
that makes
yeah
sense too.
because like why because like even like despite being paid really well, like a triangle guard, like why would they be so readily willing to kill people that they don't even know, unless like their moral compass is bent,
Yeah. I mean, well,
yeah.
yeah.
I
That's
mean,
the
yeah, and
that's
similarly with the circle workers, you kind of have to have like pretty bent morals to just be able to like pick up these dead innocent, like these dead people, just like throw them into an oven, or in the case of the other or the subset of workers, taking those dead bodies and then harvesting their organs to sell on the black market.
yeah. I mean, you have to be pretty like don't give a shit.
Yeah, no scruples, basically.
Um, but yeah,
So
that's our review for Alice in Borderland, which was great. I really liked it a lot.
mhm. I liked
Uh,
it too.
but yeah,
But
I recommend you guys watch it on Netflix. And if you haven't seen Squid Game either, check that out too. Like watching back to back. They're really short. Like as far as shows go, like there's only like 8 to 9 episodes on each of them. So
mhm,
it's you could spend like 2 or 3 days kind of like watching them,
right, yeah, and compare, contrast.
or one day if you're a freak show like me.
I don't know if anyone is as much as a freak show as you, Rob.
That's true. Um,
All right.
but I guess
Well,
we get
yeah.
to our
Well, we
blunder.
yeah we come to that time of the stream where it's time for the movie review, and of course, per usual, I will give you the synopsis, and we'll take it from there. Just to remind y'all, tonight's movie review is of GoldenEye, the James Bond movie, inaugural James Bond movie, Pierce Brosnan. So, excuse for my sniffles. I do suffer from seasonal allergies. When a powerful satellite system falls into the hands of Alec Trev- Trevelyan, aka Trevelyan, yeah, Alec Trevelyan, aka Agent 006, a former ally turned enemy, only James Bond can save the world from an awesome space weapon that, in one short pulse, could destroy the Earth. As Bond squares off against his former compatriot, he also battles Trevelyan's Trevelyan stunning ally, Xenia Onatop, an assassin who uses pleasure as her ultimate weapon. Yeah, seriously.
This is obviously this is the first Pierce Brosnan Bond film.
Mm,
They had wanting to have him since way back when Roger Moore retired. Problem was he was doing the show Remington Steele, so couldn't do him. So
right.
that's why they went to Timothy Dalton, who they had been wanting to get back since like way back after Sean Connery kind of called it quits as Bond. Um,
Mm,
and so the other thing that's a little bit unusual about this is the first time, this is like the longest span between Bond films. It was 7 years before GoldenEye came out. Like the last one that had been done was License to Kill, which was the last Timothy Dalton one. But I think it was right after License to Kill. It was Albert Broccoli, I think, passed away, and there was kind of like a bunch of like legal battles of like who was going to be running like Eon and who had the rights to Bond, which caused there to be like such a long delay.
mm,
And I think in that time, obviously Pierce Brosnan became available, and I actually don't know why Timothy Dalton stopped being Bond. I don't
mm.
know if he like didn't couldn't wait that long and like went off to some doing something else or what happened. I really don't know. I couldn't really find anything on that. Maybe
Mm.
I'll find something by next week on
Yeah.
that. But yeah, so Pierce Brosnan becomes available. It's like all
Continue
right,
on. I'm gonna go use the restroom real fast.
okay, so yeah, so Pierce Brosnan becomes available. He becomes our Bond, and that's kind of like where we get Goldeneye. The other thing that's fascinating about this is the this well, starting with License to Kill. This is like the era where the Bond films don't really have anything to do with the Ian Fleming novels. There's not really a bunch of references to storylines from the books or anything like that, and all of the Bond films have nothing to do with the novels. They're original stories for Bond. I think the only thing that like does connect it to Ian Fleming in any way is the GoldenEye was based off of like either some sort of operation that he was in, like when he was um, in MI6 or in intelligence, or if it was something to do with like his like estate that he was living in at one point. But yeah, so like this story of GoldenEye. It's a brand new story for Bond, and the other thing that obviously for gamers out there, this game spawned a really great first person shooter, which because of that game, this is why we have games like Call of Duty and Medal of Honor and like a lot of these other great like first person shooters. It's because of GoldenEye. I mean, this is really that it spawned a really famous game that was played by a lot of people. Back in the '90s.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
but
everybody loved that game.
yeah, I mean, like I played it for hours and hours and hours. It's a great game.
Hmm.
And funny thing is, they actually developed it before the movie came out, so they
Oh
weren't
wow.
sure. Yeah, it came out after the movie, but they had been developing it even before GoldenEye like the movie was going into um,
Production.
production. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, let's get into the story of the movie. Obviously, no, the other thing is it was a huge hit. Like they had
Yeah.
a $60 million budget. It made 350 million, so they did pretty damn well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, just that opening scene was so good. Like him, like jumping off from like the top of that dam, and huge, action set piece opener. Introducing the characters. And I love the exchanges between double oh 006 and double oh 007.
Which I want more of that. I want
Yeah,
more.
yeah, more like inter-agent team ups.
Which we kind of got in the most recent one, No Time to Die,
Right,
a little bit, but like yeah, this was the first time I was like, oh hell yeah, like because we'd only heard references to the other double O agents.
right. Yeah,
Uh,
even in like Craig's like Inspector, where he takes the DB-10, which was slated for 009.
yeah,
But that's as much as we hear about the other double O's. But yeah, more of this, more, and just like their teamwork, and like you can really see that they're friends. Um, and up until he changed the allegiances. He was all for king and country, or queen and country, I should say.
I don't think. But see, here's the thing. Based off of watching this again, because this is actually I think only the second or third time I've seen this now. I don't think that he was ever part of King and Country. Like I think it was all a
All
ploy.
an act.
Yeah, all from the very beginning,
Well,
because
that's true. I mean, when you find out about like his history and stuff, that might have been true. I don't know. Even watching it now, I always assumed that he was turned because of James's like seemingly betrayal of him. Letting like kind of like leaving him to die.
yeah, but no, I don't think that that's the case at all. I think that he was always planning on. Uh,
Switching
I think
sides.
I think he used that mission that we saw at the beginning.
Hmm.
I think that was all. He used that as an opportunity to fake his death.
Okay. Wait, do you think he still gets shot in the head, or is it just the explosion that burns half his face?
I think that's just like he got burned. He definitely got burned in that fire.
Right,
Uh,
yeah. But
but
did
I
he
don't.
actually get? Because yeah, cause if he was working with that Russian general, do you think he actually got shot in the head, or
Nope.
okay?
I don't think he did. I don't know if it was like a blank or what, but
See, that's why I'm not. That's why I'm convinced that he didn't betray him, or he didn't go rogue until after that. Because like if he didn't actually get shot, once Bond gets out of the room, he could have easily just walked out of the room and avoided being burned.
see the whole point is that he was part of that like what was it like
The Cossacks.
the Cossacks who had like said like, oh, we're gonna give ourselves up to the English, and like we're gonna just be okay. But then the English ended up just essentially backstabbing them and sent them right back into
Russia. Yeah.
right to the Soviet Union, which they were massacred. Which, like, his family was killed,
Hmm.
and pretty much he was one of the few survivors of that happening, and he held a grudge pretty much his entire life. And it's like, so he chose to um, become, end up going to England, becoming a secret agent, and finding, to find some way to fuck over MI6. Which, because when Bond, when he says like, "Did anyone do a freaking background check on this guy? Like, how did this not come up?"
Mm. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's true. Yeah, I guess like yeah, the way he explains it is that they figure that he was so young when it happened, he like he doesn't even remember it, all that much, and so
Yeah, like I said, but I just, so for me, I saw it as like, oh, he never was like, it was all fake. It was
mm,
all an act.
okay,
Becoming Bond's friend, and becoming
a double
saying that,
O and
yeah, all that stuff. It was all an act.
interesting. Okay.
That's my theory. But yeah, like this is also the first time we see Judy Dench as M.
Mm,
Uh, this is her first time.
right. And they kind of like again, this is why I think that it doesn't matter who the actor is; it's still the same character because even Pierce Brosnan makes um, allusions to the previous M.
True.
So
Uh, well, and this is where I had to say you're probably right, because there is a mention like that, an exchange between him, Bond and Alec. He
mhm,
talks about how Bond's family was killed in the climbing accident,
mhm,
which we also hear about in Skyfall, and Inspector.
mhm.
So yeah, I was watching, I was like, oh, "Fuck, I think Andy's right." Because I had missed that. No, well, I had missed that. I've only watched GoldenEye like a couple of times, so I
Right.
missed
Yeah, and
the
it's been
first.
a long time since I've watched. But even still, like I was, I'm upset that up until like this point, they never had to kill off uh, the character in order to reboot him. You know, and so it's
Yeah,
ostensibly in the recent James Bond movie, they killed James Bond.
well, I think that was what Craig wanted, because he Harrison Ford. He was like, he wanted to pull the Harrison Ford, where it's like, just kill me, so I don't have to play this character anymore.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but still, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
but I
think
mean,
that,
even still, like, even though Connery was like sick of playing, James Bond, he never said like, all right, kill me off now, you know.
yeah, I agree with you on that. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
like how
don't
do you bring back a character you killed off?
true.
So
Um, but then you have the great Desmond Llewellyn coming back to reprise his role as Q. He's
yeah,
tying us back to like the
hmm
old. He played that character for a long time. He what he's been
yeah,
doing
he
it since, I
died.
think, at least the second Bond film. Like, because he wasn't in the. I know he wasn't in
No,
the
he
first.
wasn't. He wasn't in Doctor No, but yeah, he was in the second one. So since the second one,
Yeah, I think like him and Lois Maxwell like reprised that character, for like the longest.
hmm
Lois Maxwell played Moneypenny up until, I think, the last Roger Moore film, before she kind of gave up that. I don't know if she died after that, or um, I don't know. I think she lived out that, but she retired from acting, and so
hmm
that's why from like the Timothy Dalton ones, we get a different Moneypenny, and then I think they hired someone. They brought in somebody new to play Moneypenny in the Brosnan ones.
hmm
But
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
I actually liked Judy Dench's portrayal of as M. I thought
hmm
she did a great job in that role.
Right. Yeah, but you do have like the slam against Bond, being
Oh yeah. like a
Yeah.
misogynistic dinosaur.
Yeah. From a
But,
bygone era. It's like, bitch, you're older than me. It's like,
yeah, yo, it's
right? And now you're in charge. And now you're in charge. So how the hell is it still misogyny?
yeah, that's the I think that they said those things kind of. I think they were trying to play towards a certain audience in that,
Hmm.
but then like the rest of her portrayal is
Hmm.
not that at all. Like she's kind of like a hard ass, but like
Yeah.
she she's respectable. I actually, like I said, I actually like her in that role. I think she did a great
Yeah.
job.
Actually, yeah. I mean, I like Judy Dench's M too, even into the Craig the Craig era.
Yeah,
Um, what is it? And it's kind of like it's just kind of and it's almost like a reversal because went from like the male M into Judy Dench, and then it went to Judy Dench and back to the M to the male M.
yeah. Oh, Ralph Fiennes plays a great. I love him in
Ah,
that.
yeah, I love Ray Fiennes. Yeah, he's great. Um, yeah, interestingly, this movie was directed by Martin Campbell, who actually directed the first Daniel Craig James Bond, Casino Royale.
That's right, he did.
Yeah, and he also directed a lot of like movies. Um, but I think before that, but I think getting the Bond the GoldenEye movie was his really big break.
Oh yeah, this is a huge
Because yeah,
like.
because he was directing stuff because he's a New Zealander, so he I think he directed one other kind of big motion picture, and then he got GoldenEye. But then he also did go after GoldenEye. He went and directed The Mask of Zorro.
Oh, okay, that's a good movie too.
Yeah, I love that movie.
We'll have
Um,
to review that sometime.
oh yeah, absolutely. Of course, the sequel not as great,
No, that's true.
but like you could definitely tell like it was like lesser budget, and like it didn't have like that epic feeling as Mask of Zorro had.
Oh, you know that because what that Master Zorro came out what 98.
Yeah.
So in the next Bond film, Tomorrow Never Dies, the bad guy that was played by what was it like Timothy Price? That was supposed to be Anthony Hopkins playing the bad guy, but
I
there
see
was
it.
all there was all these problems with like the script and like Anthony Hopkins was like this is a mess. Like you don't have your shit together. So he ended up leaving
Um,
and he ended up doing the Master Zorro.
good call.
Yeah, but I could totally see like, and now the guy who played the bad guy in Tomorrow Never Dies did a great job.
Mhm.
I the only thing I remember him in is two other things: the Infinity commercials from back in the '90s, and then him playing in the
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 Pirates movie.
the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Yeah,
Yeah, the
thank you.
governor. Yeah, the governor of Jamaica.
Yeah. So I mean, great actor, but I'm like, I only remember him from a couple things. But
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and then he goes on to play the president in the GI Joe movies.
the new ones,
Yeah.
oh God.
Or yeah, like Rise of Cobra and then Retaliation.
Oh Jesus. I haven't seen any of those.
Well, when he, I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, he was in those movies, and he was in like in the early '80s or late '80s, I forget which. But he was in like this dystopian film called Brazil, where he kind of like the trope of like the bureaucrat in in Futurama. That's where they got the
Well,
idea because he plays like this bureaucrat.
great.
Yeah, and it's awesome because like he has his office, right? But he shares a desk with someone in another office who's like the room is like split, but they still share the desk. So it goes through the wall, and so like they're constantly fighting over the desk.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty hilarious. Um,
Um, the other the other thing on this one too, we have Joe Don Baker plays the kind of the American CIA agent who funny thing about him, he actually had already been in a Bond film before. He was actually one of the bad guys in the first Timothy Dalton film.
Oh,
So it was kind of weird seeing him, playing as a good guy, as like kind of Bond's
yeah,
ally.
counterpart. Yeah, ally. It's like, hey,
Yeah,
hand me that hammer, Jimbo.
yeah. He is hilarious. Actually, Joe Baker, like because he plays in the remake of Cape Fear.
Uh,
I remember him. He plays in the original Walking Tall. I
oh,
also
that's
remember
right.
him. I also remember him from another kind of like spy detective film, which is not great.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, called Mitchell, which is a MST3K classic. It's it's not good, but it's fun to make fun of it. It's
Hmm.
so, but he was in that. Um, I know he's done a bunch of other stuff, but like it was kind of fun because he plays in this, and I think he's also in Tomorrow Never Dies as well. But another great actor that's in this.
Hmm.
Um, the other like the Bond girls, like you, because you have the Onatop,
Hmm.
who crushes like essentially like crushes like the rib cage of the guys that she's like fucking.
Right.
Um, that's I think that because I was like, how the hell did she like kill that guy that she
Uh,
was
yeah,
trying
that
to
admiral. Yeah, in the
that
beginning.
admiral like. And based off of like the fight that she had with Bond, it's like, oh, she uses her crazy thought
Legs. Yeah.
to crush the rib cage. That's how
Mhm.
she suffocates them. Okay, that
Yeah.
I it, like essentially it collapses their lungs.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, okay, that now I got it. And she is a weirdo. Oh my god,
Yeah.
she.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I get what they're trying to go for, but it's just like so over the top where it's like, or like
She's like
the joy she gets from causing pain is like orgasmic.
she gets horny off of like watching people suffer.
Yeah. No, exactly.
It's so creepy.
But I will say this though, she can't be classified as a Bond girl because she
You're
wasn't a
right.
conquest.
She's not a Bond girl because she is not a conquest of Bond.
Yeah.
The other girl,
More so that therapist in the beginning, she's a Bond girl because, well, at least it's
you're right.
implied. It's implied that he nails her.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so you're right on that.
Yeah. So she's
Um,
more of a Bond girl. The psychologist in the beginning is more of a Bond girl than Femke Janssen.
yeah, but it's funny because there's a funny like little line by Moneypenny is like where she's telling Bond's like, I know you'll say on a top of things.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like those little quips like, yeah, see, like this is they were trying to make this like more of like, oh, we got to think about the feminists and being more less misogynistic. It's like, but then you throw out lines like that where I'm like, they they know like where their bread is buttered.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
and then what was the main girl's name? I always forget her name. Like these Russian names always kind of
Natalia,
yeah,
I think.
Natalia. Thank you. She was like she was the Bond girl of this film,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and essentially like the whole idea is like there's this satellite system that was
Yeah, it was
old.
developed during the Cold War, and
Yeah,
it's it basically when I don't know if this was necessarily, it might have been revitalized through this movie, but the idea of like EMPs,
yeah.
as
This
a weapon.
this is the first movie I remember ever like like having something like dealing with like electromagnetic pulses.
Mm-hmm.
It's become a big thing like since then, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is like the first movie that really kind of deals with something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Uh,
but yeah, this movie, like, it's great because there's all like these I mean, now outdated effects like of the satellite in space, and when it's
I
first revealed, like it opens up, and you can it's obviously a model, on a small model on like a tabletop thing, and
that,
even
that,
like even the reveal of the giant ass satellite, that's actually an actual location. I forget where it is,
Yeah, that was a real location. Obviously, like it's a reverse shot that they did.
Right, when
Like,
the water, yeah, exactly.
but it's at the time, and honestly, even now, like, to me, it's like you don't really think about that. Like,
Yeah, it's
it's not.
only at the time I thought, it just kind of felt, when I first watched it, way back when, it just kind of fell in with like the effects of the time, so I didn't really think about it. It's like, oh wow, that's cool. But seeing it now, much much later as an adult, having where they're able to bring back Grand Moff Tarkin. The effects in GoldenEye seem quaint now.
I Here's the thing I love about this movie is that I felt like it not only did it honor all the movies that have come before it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also going into a new age.
Mm-hmm.
And Pierce Brosnan, I think, really merged a lot of the bonds together. Like, he
Yeah,
has.
no, I told you like what is it? I thought that he merged like the kind of the suave and the style of Connery and the kind of like cheekiness of Roger Moore.
Yeah, and even like with Timothy Dalton, he brought a lot of that in too. Like, and it's just more of because he is also pretty. He has some grit to him as well, but he's also got these great one-liners. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny. The
Mm-hmm.
one-liners is like, oh man, that is great.
Yeah.
Just no, it's nice dropping in. Like, he like has like somebody like falling off some, like something like ridiculous, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
we love it. And the action is actually like not. I always don't know why. Like, I was like, oh, the Brosnan ones, like the action's a little bit cheesy, but going back and watching them, I'm like, actually, these action scenes are pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean that scene at the beginning where he pulls that pilot out of that prop plane, and then he's being chased by like that squad of Russian soldiers, and he takes that motorcycle off that cliff, and he free falls, and then reaches that plane, and then is able to get inside and pull the plane
so
up,
ridiculous.
and it's so ridiculous but so awesome. It's
Yeah,
so awesome.
it really is. Uh, it's like, yeah, this will never happen, but damn, that was cool.
Right? Exactly. That's all. That's all I care about from my Bond films. Yeah, I did enjoy like the kind of like the more grounded in reality, first half of the Craig run. Although like towards the end, they did kind of get like over the top, but it's like it was still fun.
Yeah.
Like that
Plus, it
stair scene in No Time to Die where he's like climbing up and he's like taking out all of, like uh the guards like first person shooter style. That was pretty sick. I
that
enjoyed
was
that.
that was a great action scene.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's just like the Brosnan era was a lot of fun, and GoldenEye really, it's just a fun, great movie. I think the story is really fascinating, and
Mhm.
like I was saying, like this is an original story. There was no Fleming book about GoldenEye. It's not like
Mhm.
this was its own original story,
Mhm.
and you kind of get like a little bit more of like a background of Bond. You get like this storyline of someone he thought was his friend that actually was an enemy, and you actually feel like when he realizes like that he's been betrayed by his friend, it's like, Jesus. You can feel like the frustration and the anger he feels over that. It's like,
Mhm.
um because this is obviously the movie starts, and like after that initial sequence, that initial act, it's like 5 years afterwards. So it's like, kind of they wanted to show like, oh, it's no longer the Soviet Union,
Right,
but
right,
it's
right,
actually
right. Yeah.
post
Yeah, it's post Soviet collapse. That's
yeah,
why he makes that. That's why he makes that quip about how like, oh yeah, in Russia now everyone has a Ferrari in their barn.
right. Do
So
you think now, out of all the Bond films, uh I think this movie has one of the greatest chase scenes in a freaking tank, of all things.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Talk about over the top. Yeah. Freaking James Bond tearing through, a Russian city in a tank. Come on.
Yeah, so going through
How can you
Moscow.
not like? How could you not like? How can you not love?
Yeah, it was great. It's crazy, but
Mm-hmm.
it's great.
Right. And like at certain points he drifted that bitch.
Yeah. On like the icy roads of Moscow, it's just like, what is going on?
I
This is,
know it's so over the top. You can't help but love it.
and you got like a little bit of like kind of this like the gritty Bond theme, and like it's just all the variations that they do on like kind of that James Bond theme. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think whoever's doing that, like they're doing a great job because it's like, man, this is. I love how like based off the situation, like if it's kind of like a serious thing, they might do like a little bit more of a using kind of like minor keys, making it kind of like, ooh, it's
Yeah.
difficult. Or if it's like a really super intense action scene, like they'll throw in something a little bit more fun and ramp it up a bit, and it's, man, this is great.
Mm. Speaking of over top, can we talk about Alan Cummings' performance in this movie? It's so over the top,
Yes.
but like in the best possible way.
Well, what what did you enjoy about him?
I just thought it was like hilarious that he was like this dirty computer nerd. He was trying to hook up with Natalia the entire time, but was never stood a chance. You
No.
know, but it's crazy because he thought like him like making her like this sexy like cartoon or whatever was gonna win her over, or like him like him like constantly making like sexual innuendos or whatever
Yeah, it's
was
like,
gonna
and
do.
everyone like made fun of him for it. It's like, oh, that dirty old guy, like, or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But I had to say, like, I don't him spinning that pen like he does, like,
yeah.
I was blown away. Like that's great hand-eye coordination.
A lot of good dexterity there.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
he might have made some fun for Natalia had had she given in.
I know, right? Just give,
It's like,
that's all we're saying, lady, is give that guy, give that guy a chance. He might be a creep, but he might have fun. Give him a chance.
but like it's a great payoff because like we see him like doing that like pretty early on in the movie.
Uh,
And then when Q gives Bond the pen, it's like, oh, it's gonna explode. It's
yeah,
like,
three
oh,
clicks.
you know that's gonna come into play later. You definitely know that's gonna come into play later.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, his character's name was Boris. That's right.
Yeah.
And uh, yeah, he pretty much like was the him and like Natalia, like they kind of become like because they're the computer experts. Like they pretty much like are they become enemies, and like so they're not necessarily fighting with like their fists or like or with like
Yeah, yeah.
guns or anything,
Mhm.
but they're using their minds to fight against each other. Like it's
Right.
kind of
Yeah. So it's like kind of like counterparts, like Bond and Natalia and Alec and Boris.
Boris, yeah, or and then Xenia.
Yeah. Um,
But but yeah, you're right. His performance, he was so over the top in a great
yeah.
way.
I know. He was like, yeah, he was chewing up that set.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like
It's like
he
she is a
stole.
moron, and like I'm invincible.
Oh, and the way he dies too is just
Yeah.
like it's great.
I know, arms up, frozen to death.
uh,
uh,
yeah, I mean, so like this is one of those like really well cast movies. Yeah. Is there a lot of scenery chewing by some of these guys? Absolutely. Is there a lot of like tongue in cheek, kind of over the top ridiculously? Absolutely. But you're gonna get that in the Bond film. That's kind of the whole point of it. Is you're
mhm.
gonna get like, and you even got like guys like Joe Don Baker. Like he's definitely chewing some scenery and like kind of being a little bit over the top, but
Mm.
we love them for that.
Yeah, because I mean, even in like the earlier James Bond movies, like no one ever called James Bond Jimbo,
Yeah,
you know,
or Jimmy or
or
Jimbo.
Jimmy or Jimbo or
I mean,
you know.
maybe the only time that there was before this that there was a Jimmy Bond was in that Casino Royale spoof from 1967 with Woody Allen.
Hmm. Yeah, but
Which,
yeah, no one dare call James Bond Jimmy.
yeah, it's almost like he's kind of like, oh, you're just you're just a British dandy, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you're nothing special.
yeah, yeah. He even mocks him as much, when he was talking about, oh, you Brits, you love your code words, because he said, because Bond, when he initially meets him, says, like, kind of uh, the code phrase to make sure that he is who he is, and you know
Yeah,
and what's his face, like he's like, oh, you Brits and your code words, when he's like, when are you gonna join this century or whatever, it's like he's
yeah.
kind of
We're
like,
gonna join
so
the
he's like
21st
so
century.
over it. Yeah.
I found it funny. It's like, when are you guys going to join the 21st century? It's like, you're not in the 21st century either. You're still in the
Yeah.
20th century. It's like,
I know you're driving an old beater.
yeah,
uh,
which he uses a sledgehammer again. It's like,
yeah, you use a sledgehammer to to get your car to work again.
yeah,
You want Yeah, so you want to talk about like who's in what century?
yeah.
uh,
It's
But
yeah.
yeah,
He was
this movie was
always,
so much fun. Yeah, it's
yeah.
a lot of nostalgics. I remember watching this as a kid. And yeah, brought back a lot of memories.
Was there like anything else? Like, like I said, this is the first time we kind of got like another. Yeah, he became the bad guy. Like, we have another double O agent that we're dealing with.
Hmm.
Um, we have like a lot of the great old tropes that makes Bond fun. But was
Hmm.
there like, anything else specific about like the movie or like about a character that you really enjoyed that?
Um, no, I don't think I have anything. I don't think I have anything else to comment about a character or scene. Oh, actually, um, I really enjoyed the callback of when they're playing baccarat in the opener.
Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that's
like kind of like in Doctor No. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, because it's like him. Here's the other thing I wanted to say is like something that I find like for I don't know why, but like women smoking cigars is
Mhm.
not attractive to me at all. Because then yeah, like if she smokes
Ah.
cigars,
Mhm.
it's just not attractive at all.
It just can't be that big.
Yeah,
Big like fat honking, cigar. Like no, but a nice kind of like mid range, you know,
maybe, but
like a smaller diameter cigar might be okay. But yeah, like if it's like a big honking one where they have like they could like they have to hold in their teeth like no.
no, that was it was a great callback to Doctor No. Um, and you kind of expect like, oh, this girl, she's gonna become, like the one of the Bond girls.
Mhm.
Not really.
Yeah, no.
She was someone that Bond was trying to figure out what she's up to.
Right. In that way, she was more like a Grace Jones Bond girl.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, Bond never beds her, but kind of a Bond girl because she's in a Bond movie. But then again, like she's not a Bond girl because she wasn't a sexual conquest.
yeah. But I don't think I have anything else to say about GoldenEye. Um, so I don't know if
Yeah,
maybe you
me
want to get.
neither.
Yeah, so we can get to
Yeah, let's get
our
to our
rating.
rating.
Why don't you go first, Sandy?
Okay. I'm gonna give this one a 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I still love this movie. It's still great, and I would recommend anyone to watch it. Um, but just kind of seeing, kind of looking at it through my eyes now, I just, I have to admit that, it's not the best, but I still give it points because of nostalgia.
yeah. I mean, I'd probably give it a 3.5 as well. Like you said, some of the cinematography stuff, like yeah, obviously it shows its age just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I love it for it honors a lot of the bonds that came before it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also kind of rocketing into a new generation of Bond, which I think Pierce Brosnan does a great job
Uh-huh.
uh, as Bond.
Agreed.
Like I said, it's moving into a new era, but it's not forgetting where it came from either,
Mm.
which is always good to know. You know that it feels like the people that are doing this, they're changing a few things, but it's in good hands because they still care about the franchise and they want to
Mm.
honor
Yeah, they
what
still
came
care about the
before.
character.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is a great start to a new era with Brosnan because the
Mm.
ones that come after it are also really good. Tomorrow Never Dies actually was the first Bond I ever watched,
Mm.
and I just watched that recently too, and I'm like, wow, this movie's still it's really good.
Yeah, although it wasn't
Actually,
very well received at the box office.
yeah, that's the unfortunate part. But like, I watched that today. It's like this actually is pretty relevant to today.
About media manipulation,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yada yada yada. Yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah, that's all I had to say about like GoldenEye.
Okay.
And yeah, this is fun. I'm glad we did. I'm glad we decided to do this one.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, there you have it. That's our review for GoldenEye. Both Robert and I give this a 3.5. Would definitely recommend, especially as yeah, Brosnan did represent like a pretty sizable shift in terms for the character of James Bond.
Yeah,
Um, especially since like all of his movies were original ideas. Like they weren't, again, as Robert noted, that none of the Brosnan era Bond films were based off of Ian Fleming's novels. Um, and I think they still, kept it within the vein of James Bond, which I think is awesome and very respectful
yeah, yeah.
to Ian Fleming. So yeah, do yourself a favor and watch GoldenEye. It's it's a lot of fun. You'll I promise you'll enjoy it.
All right.
All right. Yeah. Well, that'll do it. Yeah. Next week we'll be finishing off Bond month with what's it?
Casino Royale.
Casino Royale, the inaugural movie for Daniel Craig. So don't so come back next week for that.
Yeah,
What? Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, and yeah, that'll bring us to the end of the show. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob has a good time.
I had a great time.
So yeah, so don't forget to come back next week. Don't forget to check out the library of other shows that we have. Circle of Jerk's main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's Gaming Show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, LetterboxD and Twitter at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circle of Jerk's Podcast. And so, with all that said, we thank you for joining us, and come back next week. We'll do it all over again.